Going to call the December 1st Budget Committee work session reviewing the town's proposed budgets and requests at 9 o'clock. You did good. Roll call, please.
Betsy Cooper.
Brian Winslow.
Tom Chase.
Dan Nally.
Grace Mattern.
Betty Smith.
Joseph McCaffrey. Hal Kreider.
Michael Moore.
Ted Wilkinson.
Eric Buckland.
Brad Hall. Mike Jobin.
Linda Smith.
Susan Austin.
Bob Young. Scott Breyer.
And Ginger Dole. Okay, I'd like everybody on the committee, if you could turn your nameplates just a little bit so that Susan can see your names, not all the way, but just enough so that she can try and catch your names. She hasn't been with us for a little bit, and we have some new people, which I would like to welcome. Eric Buckland is here for the Gulf Village District. We met Ted at our last meeting, as well as Mike.
Northwood.
Right. So, okay. I want to do a slight deviation from our agenda this morning. We're going to save the minutes until later, because we've got the police chief here who's going to give us a presentation on the proposed safety building and what have you, and I'd like to be able to spend the amount of time on that so that we're all aware of what that is. So that being said, Chief, if you take over, please.
Gary, do I need a microphone? Okay. Good morning. Most of you know me, Glenn Drolet from the police department. As you've probably heard by now, we jumped both feet into a safety complex in the last 3 months. So we've made a lot of progress in a short amount of time. So I'm going to run through a quick PowerPoint that I did at an informational night at Cole Brown last 2 weeks ago for you, just to show you some of the deficiencies we have in town. Then I'll go over the current state of the project. I'll tell you right now, I have 0 numbers for you. We do not have any numbers whatsoever right now. The construction manager was selected 2 weeks ago. They have until December 21st to get us their budget. So if anyone says how much it's going to cost, I'm not going to give you a number, because the last thing I want to do is give you a number that's either higher or lower what it's actually going to be. So I'll put that out there right off the bat.
Less than $3 billion?
I can say it'll be less than $3 billion.
Excuse me, Glenn, I have one quick
Yes.
question. Do you have handouts that we can be following along with, or did they?
The handouts I have,
I'm just thinking of the...
are the plans.
The
so
plans.
I don't know if
If not, maybe we can get those afterwards so that committee members will be able to take them.
so these are the same ones that should have been emailed out to
They were
you.
emailed, but not
So,
all of us printed them off.
if,
I didn't.
If you, I have like 15 copies there. I'm good. So I can definitely get you more if they need to be
No,
printed
I think
out,
we'll
so.
have enough now because these two have already said they're good, so. And while those are being passed around, I was aware that we weren't going to have firm numbers because I've been attending the selectmen's meetings and hearing about this. And when asked, excuse me, I agreed with Glenn that, hold off on the figures until we have actual figures. You could say 20 million and it come in at 15 or 22. Obviously, that's not anywhere near what this is going to be. But I felt it was important for all of us to get an overview and to be able to ask any questions we might have about the proposed design so that we can be thinking about it and whatever until we get those figures when we take our votes. Okay?
And these are working plans, so I could come back in a week, and that's pretty much what we're gonna do. But myself and the fire department are still looking at it and say, hey, can you put this room this way or whatever, but fundamentally, I guess, foundationally, that's pretty much what it's gonna look like. Okay? So let me run through some of the issues we have in town. So that's our current police station. That's a picture from Route 4 looking in. We have the 3-bay garage there, and then the actual station itself. The parking lot, you can see, is not optimal, with no cruisers parked here at all. We basically have 3 spots here, a handicap spot, another spot there. So it doesn't take much to fill up that parking lot once you start having citizens come in, cruisers come in. We had an operation a couple of weeks ago where we had some federal partners in, and we had cars parked on this banking, we had cars parked on the front lawn, we had them stacked in the middle, so it fills up quite quickly. We have had accidents right there in the parking lot with 2 people trying to back out at the same time because there's barely enough room to back out of this spot or that spot without hitting the cars that are parked there. So that's our lobby. I joke that it's actual size because pretty much you put more than 2 people in that room, you're elbow to elbow. So if you have to talk to Wendy I need to speak an officer about, anyone that's out sitting in that room is hearing your business, knows what's going on. There's no privacy. When I open the door to go get somebody, I literally have to open it and peek so I don't take them out with the door. Little shameless plug, that's our drug box right there, so if you have unwanted medications, feel free to stop by and drop them off in our drug box. So this is Wendy's office, this is the administrative assistant's office, and as you can see, it's a little bit of a maze. So that's the door I just took that lobby picture from. Anybody that comes in and out of the PD has to walk through the maze here by her desk, so anything she's working on is in plain view. You move 2 or 3 people through there, it's all very clustered. Everything in this building is a common theme. It's small and jam-packed.
I have a quick question. Is that glass plate looking out into the lobby?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it?
No, I was just
so
orienting
that's-
myself. That's looking out into the lobby
Yes,
that
I'm
you
sorry,
first
yes.
showed us. Yeah.
I thought you were asking what kind of glass it was. I'm
No,
sorry.
no.
Very little protection for her as well. That is beefed up glass, but by no means is it ballistic grade at all. So that's our first patrol office, and that's basically what it is. The wall is right there and right there, where that file cabinet is. That holds, when we're at full staff, 7 officers. So there's 1 desk, 2 chairs. Now, don't take it as I'm trying to tell you that all 7 officers are sitting there at once, but I could have easily 2 or 3 working out of that office during shift change. So one's trying to get his stuff going, one's trying to finish his shift. But the ACO works out of there, and then the 3 part-timers and 2 full-timers work out of there. That's our second patrol office / defensive tactics storage area / evidence collection area. So there's 2 desks, 2 officers work out of here, and when the SRO has to come to the station to do work, she also works out of this office. So basically that's his desk and that's his desk. The chairs are pretty much back to back. This is the lieutenant's office. He is in charge of evidence as well. So that's the door. The wall is right against that door. And he has evidence lockers right in there for temporary storage. So an officer makes an arrest, seizes evidence, it goes into those lockers and is locked up until the lieutenant can come in to move it into evidence. So he's got lockers in there, plus just his operation of being the lieutenant. So that's our conference room. Anything you say in this room, you can hear in the lobby. So when we're trying to hold a meeting, or if I'm trying to talk to 2 different people about the same topic, we pretty much have to go like this, so the person outside can't hear what we're saying. because we can actually have people yell through the wall, "We can hear you!" Thank you, sorry. So it absolutely holds no privacy. You get about 10 people in there, and that's sitting at the table and then kind of chairs around. So when we have a department meeting where, excuse me, trying to walk over people just to go to the bathroom. So this is closet, and I put it in parentheses because it is now firearm storage. We had so many firearms that we were court-ordered to take for restraining orders, domestic violence, stuff like that, that I was afraid that Lieutenant Wells was going to get buried in an avalanche of firearms because they were all stacked up in the evidence room, and we were literally almost out of room for anything else. So our maintenance, I had to have a maintenance person. This was like a bifold closet. So he framed it out, put 2 doors on it, put the heavy-duty locks on it, and now that's completely full with firearms. And that is pretty much the only closet we had to store anything, coats, jackets, anything like that. So we lost that. So this is our kitchen, file room, supply closet. It's in the back of the building, so that's the little counter that they can get their meals ready, our microwave and our refrigerator. These are all cabinets, but they've got supplies in them. And these drawers here have supplies in them. At one point, this was kind of our IT area as well. And then this is the current files that Wendy needs access to on a daily basis. So current year plus or minus 1 year. Our only bathroom for us, Wendy, arrestees, the general public if they need to. This is the only one we have. So if we bring in a DWI suspect that may be a little too intoxicated to hold his dinner and throws up in our bathroom, we are now out of bathroom until we can have that cleaned and sanitized and disinfected. So if that means that ServPro can't come until the next morning to decontaminate, then we're going to see our buddies down at the firehouse anytime we have to use the bathroom or anything. We are on Route 4, so it's quite often that people pull in. Can I use your bathroom? They have to be escorted in because this is in the secure area. Either myself, one of the officers, or Wendy has to stand there while they use the bathroom right outside and then escort them back through the entire building. Sometimes we have to say no because if we have an arrestee in the booking room, which is right next door, we can't, bring somebody down there that may put them in danger. So. This is the point of the presentation. I asked the fire department to shield their eyes. This is our furnace room / maintenance closet. It looks much better than it used to. Our maintenance man, our retired maintenance man, Willie, did a lot of work to clean that out. So I think it's actually to code now, but not optimal. So this is our booking room, looking at the 2 different entryways into it. That's it. That's as big as it is. The officer stands there at the computer to do the booking, and the suspect sits in that chair. That is our only restraint detention capabilities. I'm pretty proud of that. I'm going to ask for that chair when I retire because I made that chair. I drilled 2 holes in the legs, put lag bolts through it, and changed it to the wall with a 2x4 into the studs, and that's the best we got for restraining people. And as you can see, it's very close. So if the officer's standing right there asking him or her questions, they want to turn the fight on, we don't have much reaction time to see that's coming. So my office / the IT office, security office. I said we only had 1 closet. The other one's taken up by our oil tank. So that's inside in our closet area. So our 3-bay garage, it's really 2-bay for the cruisers because the 3rd one has our 2 dog kennels for our animal control officer to house dogs that we find, stray dogs. He'll hold them for a bit of time until the owners show up before he brings them to ASPCA. Plus our radar trailer, snow blower, cruiser cleaning equipment is all in that 1st bay. So we only have the last 2 bays to use for storage for the cruisers. And as you can see, it's a tight fit. told you the file cabinets for the storage of the records were in that back kitchen area. Well, this is where the rest of them go. For arrest files, I have to keep those for life. I can never destroy a arrest file. People ask, well, can't you just scan them in? And I can't, because I need the actual documents. I need the actual evidence, statements. I can't say, well, this is a picture of what he stole, or this is the picture of the statement that he wrote. We have to keep all the original files for life, or arrest files. And it's also basically our quote-unquote armory for equipment. This is where we store all of our duty gear, all of our uniforms that we're not using currently. So basically, 3 feet of the garage was taken away just to build that storage area. We had to do something with those files. Yes?
Any fire suppression in any of this?
No, nothing.
So,
We got blinky and loud sounds, but that's about it.
a fire in that room would be
Devastating.
catastrophic?
Yes.
Okay.
So the fire department has issues as well. So that's the current Ridge Fire Station located on Route 4 by the elementary school. And as you can see how close it is, that is the turn lane and that is the eastbound travel lane. So their driveway is right on there. They have 2 stations, the Ridge Station and the Narrow Station. Our proposal is to close the Ridge Station, which is owned by, the building is owned by us. The land is owned by the school, I believe, is the way it is now. So that building will go back to the school for them to use in whatever capacity they see fit. The narrow, the Narrow Station will stay open. So they'll be moving an engine, a tanker, and an ambulance to the safety complex building. So some of the issues at the Ridge Station, you can see this stairway. This wasn't photoshopped or cropped or anything. That's pretty much how wide it is and how narrow the stairs are. I will not go on that set of stairs with anybody else on it. I wait till they get to the top and then I'll go up because I'm not taking a tumble with the rest of them. And that is the only in and out off that second floor. So if there's ever an emergency, a fire, or anything, everyone that's up there has to use that stairway to get down. That's going to be an issue. That is the bunks that they have now. They're bunk rooms for the overnight EMTs and paramedics that are on. They were built into the office, rear office area was converted into the bunks when they went full time. There's no exhaust, and this is right, so kind of just use your imagination for you. If this is the truck bays here, their sleeping quarters are pretty much right there. So there's no exhaust moving out anything from those trucks away from their sleeping quarters. The walls are not fire rated. There's no fire system in there. So if they're asleep and something happens in one of those engines, the ambulance charger catches on fire, they're trapped in the back of the building with no fire suppression or fire rated walls in their sleeping quarters.
And no way out. Thank you.
This is the door jamb of the sleeping quarters. You can see, sorry for the lighting, but it's all rotted inside there. So you can see the clearance issues for their trucks. They actually have to send their specifications into the truck company when they have these built to make sure they can fit into the station. If Epsom or Chichester or Nottingham comes to shift coverage at that station, they've got to park outside because they cannot fit their engines into there. So if they're there for 3 or 4 hours, if we have a large structure, if they have a large structure fire, they can't pull in and use our station. They've got to sit outside with their engine. And when they pull it out, you can see that that bumper is inches away from the plot line. They actually have to put cone right there to keep people from drifting off and smashing into your $250,000, $300,000 fire truck. Because no maintenance can be done inside the station. That cab can't be lifted up. So they have to pull it out to do any work on this truck, and that's how close it is. Backing into there is an issue. They've got to pull into that driveway area with their lights on, wait for traffic, pull across almost all 3 lanes, and then back in. Not a safe movement to make in the middle of the daytime. So just to recap, those safety concerns again, the proximity to Route 4, they've got to back in, no exhaust systems, no monitoring fire detection, no secondary staircase for that second floor. It's a poorly constructed staircase, no unrated fire barriers, and no shower at the ridge station for them to use after a call. Yes, sir.
Question, obviously you've got a number of code violations going here. Is the town mandated by any organization to correct those code violations? Is that part of the reason for the proposal?
I'm not an expert on that, but I will say that there are many agencies throughout the state that could come into these buildings.
So
and
nobody's
find-
come in yet and told us that you gotta fix this? So.
No.
If I could clarify that. I think what happens is, like in the fire service, but I think if somebody were to come in there, they would probably shut it down.
That's what I'm saying. I just wondered if
This is
it
what
was.
happens above. It's just a matter of time, and sometimes if they know that you're moving towards a safety complex, they'll say, hey, if you can do this within this time frame,
I'm just curious if we were at that point yet. We're not, but I mean,
well,
we're obviously in violation, but we haven't been
physically
mandated yet.
told.
Yes, sir.
If somebody said to you, why don't we just expand the fire department building and build another couple of bays for cruisers and extend that building out the back, and then build another adequate fire station, what's wrong with that idea?
I would probably say it's impossible. The land where the Ridge Fire Station is, number one, that building is, if it doesn't collapse, I'll be surprised at some point.
What about the fire, what about the police station and the
where it's
land that it
completely
sits
surrounded
on?
by wetlands, and we sit probably this far away from the property line behind us. So the only thing we could do is go up, but that would do nothing for the fire department.
Right, and I ask that question only because I'm glad to see you have a good answer.
Any other questions before I move on to what we're proposing? So,
There are no, I do have a question. There are no pictures of the Narrow station?
we didn't, because that station's gonna stay open.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Got
just
it.
kind of show you the
Yep.
deficiencies of the two buildings we're gonna close and get rid of.
It's going to stay open as a fire station?
The Narrows, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Due to insurance rates,
Yeah,
really
that-
get tricky if you start moving stations away from people, especially in the Gulf. If we did anything at that Narrow station, their insurance rates would be drastically impacted because now they're so much further away from
Yes.
the
Yeah.
fire station.
Yeah.
So that Narrow station will stay open, the Ridge will close, and our PD will close and move into the new building.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So what we're proposing, we do have an agreement on some land. Basically, if it passes, we get the land, we can buy the land. If it fails, we shake hands and say thank you to each other. So they've agreed to hold the land for us pending the vote in March. So if the vote passes, we're looking to build at 635 First New Hampshire Turnpike, which is the former Thai food place, the little three-building strip mall, if you will, and the old Knowles bird feeder house. So those two properties, about 7 acres from there back. All everyone can see it. So
Question.
these will be to the entranceways, and we built right in here. There is a pretty good grade there, which actually is going to work to our advantage because it's going to be a two-story building, but it's going to be built into the grade, so it will look like a one-story building from looking at from the Mead Field condos. So one second. So looking this way, you would see a one-story building. Yes.
Just since you left the land, I wanted to ask, was that the price $229, is that what I
That
recall?
is the listing price, yes.
Was that an existing offer, or it was for sale? That land has been off and on for sale for a while. So was that the existing asked for price?
Yes.
Was there any negotiation on that price?
Yes,
Yeah, I mean,
Yes?
we asked.
And it didn't come down?
they said no.
Okay.
Part of the agreement to hold it was that we asked, what would you take? And they said, well, our asking price to hold it, so.
Okay. Thanks.
So, let me show you a 3D model first. That'll kind of put things in perspective. Sorry. So I'm going to bring up a 3D conceptual design model for you at this point. Sorry, I didn't make the model, but they started from the back. So the Mead Field condos would be on the far side. This is looking at the west side of the building from the west.
You got the one that spins around, right?
So that'd be looking at the back of the building. You can see that there's 4 bays for the fire department here. So these 3 here are drive-through. This one is a rear entrance only. It'd be for either trailers, their boat, or like the chief's command vehicle parked in there. And then the 3 bays are drive-through and capable of double stacking. So there'd be 3 pieces of apparatus in there from the ridge, but they could actually end up putting 6 pieces of equipment in there if they needed to back in those 3 bays.
Do you know the grade of that ramp area in the back there, the way the drive comes around?
I missed the first part.
Do you know the grade of that? It appears fairly steep there. I'm just wondering what that is.
So this will be flat. This coming around here. I think they're trying to work it to either a 3 or 4% grade. And as you come around, so this would be the Sally Port for the police department. Anyone doesn't know what a Sally Port is, basically where we can drive in with anybody that's under arrest into a secure area before we let them out of the car, rather than at our station now where they're let out into the parking lot and done the purple walk through the parking lot into the station in front of Route 4 so everyone can see that we've arrested so-and-so or whatnot. And if they try to make a run for it, they're secure in the garage. We'll play Ring Around the Rosie, I guess, with them around the cruiser. But that's as far as they're going to go. And then we can go straight directly into the booking room. So that's what you would see from the angle from the condos that are next door. And this is what I'm talking about. It's a 2-story building, but where it's built into the grade, you're looking at a 1-story. We're going to try to make it look, professional, municipal, but also residential, so it keeps the feel of the neighborhood. So now we're coming around to the front of the building. You would see from Route 4. So that right there, sorry, I went a little far. That's all public parking there. We see those cars. We're looking at between 25 and 30 spaces in there. That's still getting adjusted around, but that's where the public will come in and go out. And then as we come around these trees in the front, they'll come in under a covered kind of porch / walkway area into a vestibule, right into that main office and right into our lobby. The lobby will be basically police and fire both, so Wendy will kind of be fielding both of those calls. I need to get a burn permit or I need to speak to an officer. And then that's the front of the fire bay. So you saw there's 4 on the back. Right now there's 3s. However, they could end up expanding that 4th bay and put a door in there if they ended up expanding their equipment anytime in the future. I'll show you on the plans here. There would be 2 rooms. They get your tool room and like a work area. In that area now, that could be taken out, put somewhere else, and they can add a 4th drive-through bay if they needed to.
The cupola that's on the top of the building, is that just an aesthetic piece, or is that practical in some fashion?
This is a conceptual design, so nothing is permanent. They just added it in for the look. If it's something we need to get rid of, then it gets rid of. If it's something that can stay in the budget, it can stay.
Well, I mean, obviously it costs a little more money, but I was just thinking if it were over the fire bays, that's where the exhausts need to be taken care of, and a cupola, as in a barn, was
Possibly, that's
Was
a little above my
was there for a reason.
architectural.
If they could do it, it might be a light pipe more than it is an exhaust system, because the exhaust
Well, yeah,
systems would
but-
probably be
Right.
in the building
We
itself.
talked about actually letting the light in, letting that bay that way as well. And if we really need to put a fire pole in, I guess we could put it there. That's just a joke. Come on. Come on.
Bob
You
got
got a long day. I'm going to try to get you going.
Fire pole, yeah. It's good exercise.
Okay, here's another joke. Did you purposely make it look like Johnson's addition?
That's funny you said that, because that was brought up.
It really does.
Architect.
blends into the neighborhood this
It
time.
does, right?
But when people think they're going to Johnson's and pulling
Yeah,
the
Toby
light.
did like it. Toby did like it.
We're keeping in the frame of the people. So, as we said, it's a two-story building. And as you can, that's the roof line. If you go to the next page, should be the police department area. This is the area you would come into, the general public would come into. This is the entryway, the porch, so this would be a vestibule. That would be open 24 hours a day. That's something I'd asked for. We've had cases of rolling domestics or other situations. People have come to the PD for safety, and they got to stand out in the parking lot if it's after hours. So if they're being chased or anything, they've got no safe haven. So what we're recommending is that this area would be open 24 hours a day with a call phone that we have out in front of the PD now. You pick it up, it goes right to dispatch. We would hope to get some emergency buttons, locks. So if I'm chasing this gentleman, he runs in the vestibule, hits those locks, he can lock himself in that vestibule area, be on the phone with dispatch, and give them some safety for us to respond back to that station to take care of it. If I get too deep into this, just let me know, but this has been my waking hours for the last 4 months, so I get a little excited. So into that, then you go into the lobby area. This is where reception would be. This would be Wendy. You know what? I'm going to try to I'll do it this way. Now I don't have my back. So you'd come in here, this would be Wendy, and then this would all be a community area. So you'd have bathrooms here and then into a community room. This would be a joint room for fire and police and also the community. So if Tom Chase's fan club meeting that meets every Monday night
I don't need a room that big.
needed a place to meet,
You needed double the size, Tom.
they could use this room. So it would be a community room that anyone would be able to use. It'd be open nights, with access control. We can set it up that you can only get into certain parts of the building. It would have 2 bathrooms and then a community room, about 30 to 40 people. As we're dealing with size, it could, get bigger or smaller. That'll also operate as our emergency operations center for storms, the EMD. We'll have an office right off of that room there as well to work out of. For years, we've been operating out of Bob's mobile command vehicle, which is his personal Jeep. Hey, where'd we park the EMD today? Oh, it's over there. All right, go see him. He'd be in one area. The chiefs could be in there working with him, and it gives us some place to talk and work without, we tried using the Ridge Station. Well, you saw that staircase, number one. But that's also their area to rehab, their day room. So we're trying to make decisions, and there's 20 people milling around, talking, trying to stay warm as they're working. So this would give us a separate area to work out of. Community events can be held in there. There will be a kitchen off of that. So that'd be a kitchen that the employees can use, as well as if the town wanted to have their town Christmas party there, there'd be a kitchen right there, kind of bifolding doors on a counter, cook up some food, and it could be served. So that's that whole area. Once you get past reception, right here, that's the secure area. Anything back here is all police department. That's the Sally Port I talked about. So they go right into the booking room with 2 detention cells, places that we can actually put people where they're secure and held, that we don't have to worry about if we have to go to the fax machine or speak to a bail commissioner in another room about what's happening. So one of them will be detention grade, so that means it would have the bathroom in there. That way if they throw up, they're throwing up in their own bathroom and not ours. The other one would basically just be for holding. We wouldn't do any overnight holding. You can't leave people in a building unsupervised, so if we had to, we'd still have to go to Rockingham Jail if, they're going to be held for multiple hours for an arraignment the next morning or anything like that. But at least it gives us a place to secure people so we can get paperwork done. It'd be video monitored and everything like that.
Excuse me,
Yes.
could you point out that, the holding room again?
So it'd be the these two right here.
Okay.
The DET 1 and
Yes.
2? And is that a toilet in the corner?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of them will have the toilet, that way they can use that
Yeah.
if they need to while they're being
Okay.
booked. So off of that, the locker rooms, would be an interview room, so we can actually have an interview and not everybody in the other 3 rooms that surround it could hear it, as well as an observation room where if Lieutenant Wells is doing an interview, I can sit in a different room. You've seen it all on the TV shows, the mirror. We can watch what's happening, but they can't see who's in there. We could do, victims could do identification from that room and so on. So it just actually brings us up into the 19th and a half century maybe. It actually brings us up to, what we should actually be working with. The men's and women's locker rooms will be going up that hallway. So this is huge for us. We have 0 places to hold our equipment. If you remember the tornado, I actually had officers directing traffic in a duty belt and shorts and flip-flops because they couldn't get home to get their uniforms and they couldn't get to this. We had no place to hold them at the station. So, and then the officers that worked that night pretty much worked all night long in soaking wet uniforms because they had no place to change. So this is going to be huge for the employees to actually have a place to store their equipment. They don't have to come to work in their uniforms. They can change once they get to work. Which in law enforcement, it's huge not to be driving around in your police uniform as you're commuting back and forth to work.
Are these lockers the little things along the edges?
Yes,
Okay.
that's kind of spacing for the lockers. So, yeah, you really can't see it very well, but there's
Yeah.
slashes to represent the lockers going around the wall. Going up the hallway, we have our 3 offices. So that first room right there, just want to make sure. That's the evidence room. So we actually have an evidence room that will actually hold and we'll actually have pass-on lockers is how you're supposed to do it. So lockers in the wall, I open it up, put my drugs in, lock it. The lieutenant, who just joined us, lieutenant who is in charge of the evidence, from the evidence room can take that drugs out right into the evidence room rather than sitting in temporary, lockers that we got from Co-Brown. So it's secure, it can never be tampered with, no one else can get to it except for inside that evidence room. So the next room on the locker side would be the patrol room. That would be the patrolman's office. We're not going to do individual offices for everyone, so the patrolman would kind of have like a gang office. So it would be 2 or 3 computers in there. It would be their space to do their reports, have a meal if they want to eat in their office or whatever, but it's just combining everyone into that one room rather than having individual offices. So that's where all the patrol functions would happen. We'd have 3 individual offices. One would be the supervisor's office, so typically we have 2 sergeants on the force. They would have an office, the lieutenant would have an office, and then I would have an office. And those are those 3 going towards the front of the building, and then you're back to Wendy's area. This is the armory right outside the elevator shaft, so we can have storage for those firearms that are in that closet, as well as an area for the officers to clean their weapons after firearms and such. The only other room I want to touch on is an interview room. It's a soft interview room, if you will. So someone comes in and says, I really need to talk to someone about my daughter. Not much is going to happen. We're just going to have a conversation with somebody. We can step off into a little interview room just to have that 15, 20-minute conversation with that parent or take a complaint or get a statement from someone. They're not in the secure area, so once the officer's done, they can sit in there, fill out their statement, filling out whatever they need to do, and then they can leave. Just a way to get out of the lobby and have those conversations that you may not want to have in the lobby filled with people. Linda's going to yell at me because I'm talking fast again. Any questions on that part? I know you have a long day, so I don't want to beat this to death on you.
While you move to the next slide, I would recommend, as someone who's seeing impaired, that if you can blow up this diagram so that those writing inside the rooms becomes more readable, it would be great.
Yeah, this is, these keep changing, so we really haven't gone to that level, but once we lock this in, which will hopefully happen the next day or two, we'll be able to do that as well.
Excellent.
Have as many
Thanks.
of these possible, so now we're down to the second floor, if you will, the base, the lower level. This is pretty much all fire department down there. So they would come in, see Wendy. If it's somebody that she calls down to the deputy chief and says, I have so-and-so from this company here, she can buzz them down and they can get down to the fire department. They won't have free range just to walk around that building. We kind of want to keep security as tight as possible. So you go in, I need a fire permit. They would either come up and they can use that soft interview area to do it, or if it's somebody they're expecting, they say, yep, buzz them down, and they can either unlock the elevator, they can go down, or the doorway to use the stairs. So those are the two ways into the fire department. Unfortunately, I have to go back up here because I'm not familiar enough to. So this is the 3-bay. It's still in conversation on what this structure will be. It could be pre-engineered metal building, or it could be wood built like the rest of the building. That's going to come down to price on what the construction manager thinks is the best way to go for that. 3-bay drive-through, and then the 4th bay is here. These are the 2 workrooms that I spoke of, EMS storage and workroom. Those are the 2 rooms that I said could be removed in the future if they say, we need to move another piece of equipment either from the Narrows or we bought a new piece or whatever. But there is room for expanding that bay to a 4-bay drive-through station. So this would be the parking area for the fire department. If for call vehicles, they can come in here, and the full-timers park down there, and they go right into their gear room. So this was originally kind of flopped. We switched it, so they can come in, get their gear, and they're right into the apparatus bay and on the apparatus and out the door. This would be their day room, so this is where they would be during the day doing their work and making their chili. I had just one. So this would be their day work area for the crew that's on. Across is their decontamination room, which we don't have at this point. So anything that's after the fire, they pretty much cleaning it right in the same work area they're in. So now they have a specifically designated area to clean their stuff. This would be an office storage area, and then the staff work area. Over here would be, it's red on here, but it's a joint room, exercise room for police, both police and fire, so everyone would have access to that. Right now, this is showing a meeting room. It's not as big as you would think. It'd be a meeting room of 10 or 12 people for them to have if they're having a small training or a fire meeting or something like that. They could have a meeting room right in their own area for quick little meetings if they needed to. So we're going down the hallway into the chief's office, captain's office, and then the 4 rooms on this side here are their bunk rooms, their overnight bunk rooms. And then across the hall would be men's and women's bathrooms, as well as their men's and women's separated locker rooms, pump room, mechanical room, and general storage. That general storage may become a police area as well to move into a records room. We're not sure if the file room on the first page in Wendy's area is going to be big enough, so we may be able to take some or all of that room for record storage and actually make it a true records room.
Chief,
Yes.
is the mechanical area where the heating systems would be?
Yeah, so everything would be in these 2 areas, so the mechanical.
And is this building going to have fire suppression?
Yes.
Good idea.
Yep. Sprinkler.
What a concept, a fire station with a sprinkler system. You sure you're not getting a little extravagant there, guys?
So, and I'm glad you brought that up because we're doing the best we can to make sure there are no bells and whistles on this. You know, we always talk about wants and needs about this time of year. This is by far a want. It's a need based on what we're working with now. So we're doing the best we can to make sure this isn't something that we present and then, oh, you don't need this room, this room. Oh, you're right. We'll cut that down. We're trying to give you the best what we need as well as what we think the town, for lack of a better term, can swallow. I know this is a huge project. I know it's going to be big on taxes, but it's something that we need to do for the employees, for the town itself, and to move this town in the right direction out of the buildings that we're in now. So, you know, there's not a lot in these plans that you're going to be able to see that say, you don't need that. So.
Greg?
Just to go back to the point earlier.
To the mic. Gary will yell at you otherwise.
Greg LeBlanc, Deputy Chief.
Northwood Fire. This is, to go back to earlier when they asked, has anyone come in and set the rules or the laws and closed us down? This is only to get what we need to be legal to work in this town as a fire department. The 4 separate bunk rooms, the separate lock rooms, the showers. It's, like Glenn said, it's not bells and whistles. It's not superior wants or anything like that. It's just what we need to become a legal fire department.
Just go back up to the police station floor. Records are, you didn't really, it's not designated on here, but where would records be held?
So right now, they've designated the rear area of a Wendy's kind of workspace as a records area.
General storage, part of the general storage? No, I'm sorry. Wrong.
No, it's just file counters and storage. So this would be like the coffee area and then general. So it's basically on her rear wall. It'd be a kind of a, almost like a hallway that leads to nowhere.
In that reception room area?
Yep.
Is that sufficient to handle, I mean, you showed in a photograph there in the existing garage.
That's why I'm saying we'll most likely end up moving a records room into that fire floor in that general storage area for the long-term storage. That would be the area in Wendy's area would be for her files that she needs on a daily basis. So her current year files and probably prior year, 1 year prior, would be in that small area in Wendy's office. And our permanent storage area would be downstairs in that secure storage area.
Those records would be sufficiently, I mean, obviously you don't have much security to speak of there with the garage, but would they be...
in the new building?
Well, they'd be certainly more secure
Yes.
than they are now, but would they be really secure in
Yes.
a sense being...
So what we would do if we end up making this gray storage area here, the records room, it would be designated a record room, so it would have the proper file cabinets, the proper access codes, and access into it.
Yeah, and just with records, I mean, fire security is probably the greatest hazard.
Yeah.
Because that's the story of records going back in all kinds of communities through the century as they lost in a fire somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the conference room for the fire department downstairs, you said it would hold 10 or 12. Is that sufficient for them if they had like a full department meeting and not using the narrows? Then go upstairs. Okay.
So that would be, you know, if they didn't need to occupy, you know, an entire community room, if they were having a recert, or, you know, they needed 5 of their EMTs, they could just have that room to meet, or, you know, if the command staff needed to meet, you know, instead of having a 40-person room, just an area for them to sit and work on projects and stuff in a room more than 2 or 3 people deep.
Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes.
For the entryway,
Yep.
the entryway on the new complex,
Is that all handicap accessible?
Yes.
This is on the
So you'd be coming in on like grade right from the lobby, so there'd be no steps or anything, right into the vestibule, right in, and all this would be ADA compliant. Actually, the whole building, what's that?
That's what the elevator's for.
Yeah, so the whole building would be ADA compliant, even for employees. I know it kind of sounds weird that a police officer wouldn't be able to climb stairs, but we're still held to those standards, so everything in this building would meet ADA code. Yes, sir.
In your planning process, as you indicated, this is kind of your bare bones need. Is there anything in the planning process working towards what if you had to expand?
Yes.
How you would do that on this property?
Yeah, so so land would be, as I said, I think it's just under 7, so I think it's like 6.9. So we would have all the way back into this area. So we could, if we needed an outbuilding for a couple of trailers to get them out of the weather.
For fire truck?
Yeah, yeah. So this, this would be big enough for parking. They could park on the ramp here. But we did look, at least 20 years out. You go anywhere further than 20 years, you're just, really guessing on what my department's going to look like in 20 years. But you can significantly say we're going to add X amount of police officers in 20 years, cruisers, fire trucks. So that's what we did. So we've kind of planned out 20 years, and we're not saying the 20 years the building's going to be out of date by any means. We're looking 50, 60, but we can go, there's plenty of land behind us.
On your egress plan off of this floor, is there anything or anything?
So my want is going to be, I'm guessing DOT is going to make us do something there, turn lanes, decel lanes. But having pulled out on the Route 4 for the last 17 years out of that station we're in now, I really want to push for stop here on red, at each side. That way, as we're pulling out, the Opticon kicks on, trips the lights, turns it red, clears the traffic, so they can pull right out and head to wherever they're going rather than pull up, oh, that's a fire truck, everyone stops, big rig stops, maybe. So that would be my want. DOT allows that, hopefully, but, that's going to be.
Okay, I would just like to, I'm sorry, excuse me, Glenn. I just want to remind members to raise your hands for the record, for the minutes. I need to recognize you so you can ask your question of Glenn. Okay, so the same thing we do when you have a question is raise your hand so I can recognize you.
So she knows who, keep the minutes.
So she knows who's speaking, who's asking.
You need their names?
No.
No, but just so that she catches it.
I would prefer names, especially the new people. Thank you.
Okay.
So, how is SMP?
Joe.
Yes, thank you.
Now you may ask your question since
I had a suspicion
not
you were gonna
recognized you.
Okay.
I know Joe's voice.
How was SMP selected, this firm? Why were they selected? How were they selected?
So the biggest decision for me is they've worked with me for 4 years, helping get this project going, and didn't ask for a dime. They came in and presented, did an extraordinary, great job, and they were picked.
Where are they located?
Concord.
Concord. And what's the cost to date that's been expended to generate where we are?
I don't know what the overall, their fee for all their work they're doing from 3 months ago to town meeting is $19,000.
To town meeting?
To vote in March.
So 19,000 is what they're...
So all their conceptual drawings, their research, their all that, so everything they're doing up until voting is $19,000. And then once, if the bond passes, there'll be additional fees after that, but all their conceptual work, coming to meetings...
Everything we're seeing so far, the ideas and so forth, they haven't billed, I take it?
I'm sorry?
They have not billed yet?
You're in my space. I'm sorry.
The bill doesn't come to me. I think there's been one bill for like 2 bills now.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
The Board of Selectmen voted and signed the contract for the services to do the preliminary up till town meeting. And I believe we get, Sandy could answer that better, but we have received one bill and they're billing us periodically. But the total cost for this is will not exceed $19,000 unless if it passes, there will be more fees. But right now, We signed a contract for $19,000, and we do get periodic.
So through March town meeting, we're looking at 19,000 outlay. Yet to be
Hal, you had a
built.
question?
I have two questions, if I could. You caught my attention when you said chili, but I guess I don't see the kitchen for that downstairs. I see the kitchen upstairs, but I don't see it downstairs.
No, there's no kitchen, so there'll be one kitchen off the first, off the...
So they have to go upstairs to make the chili?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have to do that?
Then the second question is a little bit more, well, let me just ask it this way. I think there's no question we need the space, we need the improvements. But do you have any concerns about putting both of these services together? I mean, I know you run the department diplomatically, but people could get upset with you, the department members. Do you have any concerns that by having them both here, if somebody decides that they're unhappy with the police department, that we not only pin down the police, but also the fire department?
Do I have concerns of that happening? Absolutely, but we're going to do everything we can to mitigate that. So everything is going to be a secure facility. Like I mentioned, anything that happened in the lobby, they can't go anywhere other than the lobby. They can't get down to the fire slide without being buzzed in.
I'm more thinking about, and again, I don't mean to raise an alarm per se, but it just seems like society's going nuts. And if somebody's unhappy and they pull up with 5 or 6 big trucks and block both entrances because they're unhappy with you, and then we lose, both the police capacity and the fire.
Well, we'll be all set because we're out on the road, so the fire department as well. No.
And they've got the narrows.
No, I mean, I see what you're saying, but if they're going to do that, after they wipe us out, they're going to drive down the road, because that's going to be a real soft target. They're better protected with us because we're security freaks by nature for law enforcement. So they're going to be better protected in the same building we are. They're going to have armed officers in the building that they're in now. Now, the narrow, you walk right in the narrow station anytime at the bridge station.
Yeah, I'm more worried about the fire department not being able to get out because of people trying to address you.
Yeah, we could what if it to death, but I think we're taking enough steps to make sure that, 2 access ways out in, that they're secure, they can't just walk around their part of the building, ours is secure, so.
Yeah. Well, I understand it's cheaper to do it this way, but again, I'm just wondering whether, I'll have to go with your assessment of it, but.
Yeah,
do that.
I think Scott might have some additional insights on it.
So just to let you know, this was not just a fire chief and a police, fire and police group. The safety complex has 2 public members, a member of the board of selectmen, and then a the chiefs are the designee. So a lot of this conceptual stuff was, we've talked about in the meeting and so forth. We did not specifically address your concern. I feel as being on that committee and working very well together, all parties involved, that I think that this is the way we should go. I think from a cost perspective, this is, if you look around the state, almost I'm not saying everyone, but the vast majority of towns are going with safety complexes as opposed to having 2 separate structures. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, well, that's helpful, because at least you don't feel like you're making an obvious mistake.
No, I don't think we are
I
at
guess
all.
to answer that question, the best way is we're not compromising safety for finances. So we're not saying, well, we're going to put them at risk, but it's cheaper to do it, so we're doing it this way. These buildings are designed, this is what they're designed for. It's not like we're taking an existing building and just shoving 2 departments in. We're building this building to,
And actually, if I may add, during a lot of this, it was very clear that there was some segregation in this complex. There is a definite segregation between fire and police. It's not like they're, other than the training room, they're not sharing any space.
Yeah, I do like the idea that they're on separate levels.
Grace?
I have a question that's related to that, because I've heard concerns about the segregation and the security between them, so, like, who gets to go through the segregation? Do you know what I mean?
So, I mean, there's areas that, you know, the fire department come in, I mean, they came down into our main area, they could, that's the great thing with access control now. You can set it up that, you know, you can come through this door, but you can't go through this door, so all the access codes would be in there that, you know, the deputy chief could come in and to, you know, be able to buzz through Wendy's first door, but he can't get into the evidence room, he can't get into the booking.
Okay, got it. So you're setting up different
access
levels
levels.
of segregation by coded doors and who gets the code?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Michael?
What about the reverse? You've got a door to buzz down into the fire, but if somebody got into the fire, could they come up through the building into the police part, or is that?
So they would have to be let back. So if Wendy buzzed them down to get a fire permit after they meet with the deputy would have to get them back into that stairway. So that would, I think that stairway would be access granted both ways, top and bottom.
So somebody that was on the fire floor coming up into the police park could only get into the lobby. So, okay, thanks.
One of the things that happened about 4 years ago when we started this whole project was several of the complexes had concerns because the police would have arrested a volunteer on the weekend, and now they had the issue of negative communication. And so keeping the two areas completely secure was a part that we needed to look at.
Grace?
I just want to clarify from looking at the model and from looking at this, the only windows on the bottom floor where the fire department will be looking out at that parking area. So there'll be south windows and west windows, but the east and north sides are buried. Am I seeing that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So those windows you see there are the bunk rooms. So
Right.
the bunk rooms they have would be the windows. So there'd be windows all on this
It's
rear
bunk rooms
side.
and offices, yeah.
And this would be a foundation wall you're actually looking
Yeah.
at here.
Yeah, okay. And on the north side, the side facing Route 4 too, there's,
Up in here, up on
yeah,
this side.
that's
Yep.
all foundation wall.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're actually below grade on
Yeah,
that
okay,
side.
thank you.
And that's why we kind of put the bunk rooms there, so
Mm-hmm.
it would be exposure, so they could have natural light into those rooms.
Are there other questions?
Maybe just one more.
Sure, Michael.
You were talking about maybe record storage on that big general storage area, but it looks like if you wanted to do it partly, it's an easy wall. The room's kind of takes a jog there. You could put an easy wall in there and still use some general storage and some.
Another one.
One moment, please. Bob, I'm going to put you on the spot as emergency management. Can you give us briefly your take on, from an emergency management point of view, how this is going to work in comparison to what we have now?
We have worked with the architect specifically looking at that. I mean, the two agencies can interact with me or who's ever sitting in that chair. But I think the upstairs area that you saw that was set aside, right now we need a facility where we can meet. And not just us, but in other words, if we have an incident, we've got to bring in federal people, we've got to bring in state people, and we need a place where we can all interact, even if it's a case of bringing in, say, power crews. Right? So, yes, this facility is set up with that in mind. There's an office which would be where we would have our communications, probably, computer systems and connections to the weather service. When we have an emergency, we can close that whole area off. This is now a secure building. So it certainly meets my needs, and our ability to interact with the two departments is perfect simply because of the flow.
Okay. Joe, you had another question?
Fire chief is, I know we've had a problematical situation ongoing there, but what amount of effort, time has the fire station personnel, let's put it that way, whoever's been acting on behalf of the chief or as the chief, so what kind of time has been put in, what kind of, you've obviously been putting in a lot of time, so could you give me an idea there?
The deputy chief has been at all the meetings with the architect, so he's been able to say, you know, like I said, we had the rooms flipped.
Yep.
They saw that and they were like, no, it works better if you put that over here, and we can walk right into the gear room. So they've been with the architect.
So the input's been ongoing?
Yep.
Could you give me a rough idea of how much time you have put in since this began? Especially this past year?
I'll be honest with you, I've been pushing this for roughly 6 years now.
No, I
7
know.
years.
Well, I said
But in the past 3 months, I have no idea. I'm not kidding. It's pretty much consumed my life. Ask my wife. She didn't get her anniversary present this year because I went to a meeting.
Are there other questions? Tom?
Pursuant to Mr. Kreider's concern about the building being attacked, I'm wondering if any consideration has been given to connecting the back end of this driveway to the driveway that services the retirement community, if only a rudimentary connector.
In an emergency, we could definitely make one. I'll answer it that way.
Not a problem.
I want to say, I asked that question because during the big ice storm, 2 years ago, my neighbor who lives at the end of a cul-de-sac had to drive across an area onto my property in order to get out from where he was because everything else was blocked by trees. So it's not an idle question on my part.
Yeah, it's,
And that was kind of a key selling point for us, that this actually already has 2 driveway cuts in it already. So, you know, the way it would be set up is public would be in and out here in this driveway. This would be restricted access to go around the building, so police and fire only. And then this would be primarily exit only for emergency vehicles, but it'd probably be limited access that if there's a storm and we've got people in the community room as a warming center, say you will, police and fire could come use this. Public can't use this entrance. Everyone can use this one. This would be exit, entry, mostly exit only. That makes sense.
And if need be, you can cross
And
that
that
little
we throw it
grass
into
strip to get
four-wheel
up to
drive
the
and haul in the forestry truck.
Plow your way through it. Other questions?
there's one behind you.
There's one behind me. You may ask your question,
Back to the
Sandy.
security of the building, you know, you talk about how the top is all up, it's all secure, locked down, they can do the elevator and they're coming back up. But inside the bottom floor, are each of those rooms able to be locked down if they should get into the bottom? I mean, I know they can't get up to you guys unless they've left them up, but are they secure, and do they have the ability, or do they have the ability to have all of those rooms locked as well, like the code key? Is that part of the design?
Yeah, even in our part, I wouldn't say the individual offices would have key fobs to get in and out, just regular door locks. You know, evidence room, armory, booking area would all be key fobbed in and out. So if they had a designated room, say that meeting room, they wanted to make their hard room, that if we did have an attack and we had a shelter in place, that could be their fortified area, if you will.
Michael?
We bought a nice new police cruiser last year, and I see there's another one in the budget, but is there a covered place for parking for?
So in the Sallyport, these both will be drive-through. So in a storm, we could actually get 4 cruisers in there,
Okay, so
get it out of the way for plowing and everything else. Typically, we only have 3 cars or 4 cars at the station at a time. 2 of them usually on the road, so at most, usually, we'd only have to put 2 in, and we could stack them on this side and still have access
great,
for the
thanks.
Sallyport.
Eric, did you have a question? Oh, I thought I saw that hand.
One last question.
Yes,
Speaking
sir.
of snow, have you thought about the logistics of snow removal, given the shape of that building and where you get in, where you get out?
The architect has given it some keys in his planning, but that will come more with the construction manager as well as, with the pavement. So, yes.
No. Thank you. Any other questions from committee members? Okay, seeing none, at this point, I'm going to call for a break. 10 minutes?
Max.
10 minutes. I'm sorry?
Max.
Max. 10-minute break. So we will come back at 10:20 and we'll begin with the police department budget. Okay, we are back in session. We're going to begin, we'll go over the police department's proposed budget, which begins, there's one line on page 9. So looking on page 10, Glenn, do you want to give us a quick overview if there's anything, any changes or whatever that we should be aware of?
So the only real question that came up during the selectmen portion was the increase in the part-time line, which would be 113 on page 10. With our shorthandedness, we've always had a third part-time position, but we haven't had it filled in many, many years. We did recently fill it this past year to help out with the shortage, so that is just budgeting 2 shifts per officer for the part-timers, so we're actually doing the real budgeting for that position. So that's the increase right there.
Do any committee members have questions on any of the police department lines? Hal?
I've got a couple, and I think they're going to seem repetitive, so just bear with me as I go through. So I'm going back to the first page, which is page 9. And I'm assuming based on the data at the lower left, the difference in salary between 2018 adopted and 2019 is just that we haven't paid Glenn for December yet. Is that correct?
Oh, you're looking at the actual
Yeah, because...
versus the adopted?
Yeah, 'cause
There is still
These are
payroll.
These are the expenditures to the date this was printed, so it doesn't include all the expenditures. You still have enough, yes. So the
Yeah.
answer to your question is, yes,
Yeah.
you're correct.
So I'm looking at that one. That one looks about right to me. So I go to the next page, and I'm assuming that the salaries for the officers, which is the top line, which is different by almost 30%, is primarily due to we didn't have as many officers.
You were down a position most of the year, right?
Well,
One
that might
full-time
account for
law.
some
I'm
of it.
asking the chief.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so they had one full-time position that was down most of the year.
Yeah, I'm just trying to confirm, that we got all the numbers right. So thank you on that. The overtime, I'm assuming that's, and now I'm down to line 140.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that the overtime is a result of being down an officer, and that's why we're over for 2018 and still have more to go.
Yes, that's correct.
And that's why you feel comfortable going back to the 28,000?
I'll defer to the chief, but that's part of the reason was overtime. Did you want to add anything to
No,
that?
that's exactly right. It was
Okay.
overtime was filling the open shifts from the vacant officers, and I think you're probably going to ask on part-time too why that's over, and that's the same thing. They were working more hours than they would originally or would normally.
Yeah, I mean, all these are sort of what I'm presuming, but I just would feel more comfortable if somebody actually confirmed all that. Okay, then maybe a question for both, I guess this is more to Sandy, if you could please. On the next one down, the health and dental for the police, what's the sort of policy or the metric that you use when you're trying to budget for the health care? Do you budget for one person, the family,
It's,
or?
I budget for what they're on currently,
Okay,
and then I also budget any vacancies for a full-time position on a family plan because we don't know who we're gonna hire.
right, okay.
And the reason it went down is because, one, we had a decrease in the rate, and two, we had another officer take the buyout option
Okay.
instead of the medical.
Okay, so overall, from 2018 down to 2019, the metrics are solely based on what you just said then?
Exactly. If you look at the buyout line, you'll see it went up 2,000. That's where the officer has now opted out next year. So
Okay.
that's the 2,000, so that's part of the 25 decrease.
Got it. Okay. Just a general question. What's the percent that we pay against the salary for retirement?
For a police officer, I know for a police officer, it's a lot higher than like for a civilian position.
Well, that's why I'm asking. Yeah.
It's 28.43% for police, 30.89% for fire, and 11.17% for regular employees.
Great. Yeah,
You have
okay.
a wage matrix in your packets, and up in the
Yeah.
corner of that, it'll show you the rates.
Okay, I missed that. I saw the differences, but I didn't, okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask if there are other questions for just a moment, Hal. Does
Yeah,
anyone
go
else
ahead.
have questions? Joe?
All right, just to reconfirm, so we, what Hal was saying, the 34th, we see an increase on line, this third one down, 113, 113. 34,000 increase, and that's part of picking up the officer that was absent? Is that
The overtime?
Oh, am I
Are you looking at
No,
140?
no, I'm looking-
Part-time. You're
I
looking
picked
at
the wrong
part-time.
one.
Oh, part-time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been answered, and it's a matter of them juggling part-time versus full-time versus overtime to cover the shifts.
But that's
what
going-
Hal just was asking about.
Yeah, and so that, but that's going forward is a 34,000 increase. It's
Anticipated.
expected.
So that's for the third part-time officer that we added this year. And we actually budgeted 2 shifts per part-time officer per pay period, which gave you that total increase.
Okay, thank you. And then I wanted to ask,
Okay, let me,
well, let me just, okay, this is about this, special detail, do you know what the total figure was that was paid to the department this past year for special details?
I'd have to defer to the chief or Sandy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the trustees of the,
Do you know the total amount that was paid to the town for special details? Because it goes to the town, do I understand? It doesn't
that
go to
would
the
be
police
on your
department.
Oh,
revenue
chief,
sheets.
yeah, okay, you're just talking about the revenue.
It goes actually from the special revenue fund.
I'm sorry?
It goes in and out of the special revenue fund.
I think his question is how much, do we know how much revenue we brought in from special duty?
No, I would have to pull the special revenue fund from the treasurer's records
Okay.
to total that up for you. But I
'Cause we
can
don't-
do that, I can get that number.
It's not, yeah, okay, it's not in here anywhere, I didn't miss it, yeah.
No,
Okay.
because several years ago, the town opted to open a special revenue fund to cover that cost.
Say that again, please?
The town opted to open a special revenue account
Yep.
for the police detail to cover the cost. So the detail account reimburses the payroll for it. So I can get that number from the revenue
Okay, so that
account.
number comes into that special
It's not
account?
through the operating budget, not anymore.
Okay,
We actually charge, if somebody does a special detail, we charge the person that hired the special detail, then it goes into that revenue account, and then we take the money out of the revenue account to cover the officer's salary.
Okay.
So that doesn't show up in the budget.
New Hampshire Co-op or Asplin or whoever, that goes into that special,
Yeah. And then we
Account.
pay- And then we take the money
then it's
out
allocated from there to the...
to the
pay-
detail.
Pay, and,
And we actually charge a little bit more to help offset the cost. for
well, that's what I was, further, I would like to know, is there a way to know what was left that went to the town? And that's not in here either, so can I get that figure also? In other words, that total amount, you have a payroll allocation that comes out of that, and there's a certain amount left to cover our operating costs for vehicle and fuel and a whole series of things, right?
I can tell you, the last time I checked that balance, and it was several months ago, the number that I remember was around 83,000 that was in that account.
83?
That may not be exactly right, but I'm giving you a huge ballpark.
Okay, that's all right. But that's the total, so that hadn't, but part of that money had already been allocated, I assume, because payroll has been made.
That was after the officers have been paid. That was what's remaining in that fund.
So potentially the town might see that?
$67 an hour is what the company would pay. 40 of that is for officer. So $27 goes to the town into that and stays in that fund.
Okay, so roughly, I understand you said roughly, 83,000 was left for the town, roughly, right?
That's what's in that account, yeah.
As you saw it, okay, thank you.
Cumulative over years though, right?
Accumulated over years, correct. Michael, did you have a question?
I did have a question. Page 11, number 691, police vehicle purchase. Last year, we budgeted 43,000, but only spent a little over 31,000. But this year, we're back to budgeting 46,000. So is this a more expensive vehicle, or
No,
what?
so that 31,000 is for the actual vehicle itself. There's a purchase order out there. I don't know what the status of that
We
is.
have a
but that's
purchase
pretty-
order for the,
so
all
that's
the equipment that goes into the
$10,000
vehicle.
roughly. Almost 11,000.
Okay, so that, even though we've gotten that vehicle, we haven't put the equipment in it yet, or?
Oh, yeah, no, it's.
Or just haven't paid for the
They haven't
equipment?
paid the bill yet.
Okay, thank you.
Grace?
Sandy, did you say there was a wage detail
Yeah.
somewhere?
It's attached in one of the packets.
It's like
It's,
one of the pages.
There?
It's the last page of this.
Like, is it towards the back?
See this document right here?
Yes.
If you go to the, if you turn the first page, it has all the wages, the 2019 wages.
For all employees.
Would you show me the front of the document again? I'm not sure I got it.
This one?
It's the
Well,
Got
supporting
it.
document.
Okay, thank you. That might answer my question.
Hal, you had another question?
I do have a unrelated question to the other ones that I asked. Legal fees. Glenn, legal. It's $12,000 and I.
You gotta use the mic.
Oh, sorry. And I happen to
for-
see the ACLU is suing us, or was suing us. Do we have enough money in the fund here?
That's not that line. That is,
The,
that line is to pay our prosecutor. Prosecute our criminal cases.
the line you're talking about, and we're gonna hit that later in the budget, the line you're talking about is in the selectmen's legal line.
Okay, thank you.
Grace?
How many full-time officers are there and how many part-time for how many full-time equivalents?
So
I'll break it up. How many full-time officers are
we
there?
have 8 full-time officers, 3
And-
part-time officers, each works roughly 10 to 20 hours per week, depending
Okay.
on their availability.
So it's 8 and 3, 10 to 20. Okay. Thank you.
And that 8 includes our school resource officer, so I should caveat that.
Okay.
That's 7 full-time on the road, 1 full-time at Co-Brown, and then 3 part-time officers.
Okay.
I have a quick question for you, Glenn. On the 330 line, the contracted services,
Yes.
can you just refresh my memory as to what's contracted services?
Yeah, so that's the line that we put in our reporting records management system in. So they roughly go up 3% roughly each year. That's our water deliveries, that's our pest control, that's our body camera storage and licenses, alarm system, copier maintenance plan.
So the $4,000 increase being proposed for this coming year?
Pretty much between the records management and the evidence.com body camera storage.
Okay.
Is that where ServPro would go also?
No, usually we don't have a contract with them, so they're basically as needed basis, so that'd be like other professional services, I think it's listed as.
Thanks.
Joe?
We don't have a canine unit. Do we? I see the canine line there, it's at the bottom of,
We have
10.
an animal control officer.
No, I think this is a little different, but I'm just,
No, we do not have a current canine
Is
officer,
that
that's
where
why
we
it's
utilize-
$1.
do we utilize the, there's another department or two around with dogs. Do we utilize that on
Who's ever
occasion?
available, we use Stratford County Sheriff's Department, we use State Police, we use
Okay.
Barrington.
Thank you.
Are there other questions on the police department's proposed operating budget? Joe?
In that case, I have another question. The animal control, I don't see the line right now. but I
Separate
know-
budget,
I'm sorry?
it's a separate
Separate
budget,
budget.
Okay, is that,
separate department.
shall I leave it or ask
Yes,
it? Okay.
Are there other questions on the police department's proposed budget? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that department for the moment. Glenn, do you have any, I don't see commission, no, I see somebody making faces at me. The police commission budget, does anyone have any questions on the police commissioner's budget, which is on page 9, just above the beginning of police department? I'm not sure if Glenn could answer anything for us or not, but I don't have any questions about it. Does anyone else? Hal?
Well, I asked that ongoing question. Again, I'm looking at the 2018 actual for the salaries to the commission. Do people have to file for that money, or how does that work? Because we only paid less than half
So-
of what's budgeted.
Oh, sorry.
If you
So
have...
you just gotta remember that we have at least, what, 2 pay periods left for this year?
Yeah, but you're down 60%.
Well, they get paid, do they get paid like the selectmen once a month?
It's actually Linda,
It's actually my hourly wage,
So
and
until
it's,
based on the hours that she actually
it
works.
just depends on the year. It fluctuates year to year and how many extra meetings there might be. So
Okay,
there's
so this
always, it's by the hour, whatever's actually
Okay, so this was a
used.
lean year from
Yes.
your hours perspective. Okay.
Any other questions regarding police department or commission? Okay. Might as well. Do the animal control, do you know what page that is?
Page 18. And I'd like to start off by answering Hal's question.
Please do.
Yeah, I got it marked right here.
You're going to see a big difference in paid and actual. Unfortunately, he has sustained an injury, so he missed many months of work, and so we didn't pay anything out of that one. So.
Are there any other questions on animal control?
Yes.
Joseph?
Do you know how many calls were made up to date this year? I mean, obviously.
I don't know the number of calls off the top of my head. I can tell you he averages between 12 and 20 hours, depending during the dog registration months. So I think that's April. He could
Well,
put
to
in
20 a month, or what do you say? What is
pay
that?
period,
Pay period. What is the pay period?
2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks?
So 12, for the 2 weeks, I'd say anywhere between 12 and 20, 24 hours a week.
Okay, those are hours worked. But in this case, would that be down partly, since you mentioned that, but because you said the individual was injured?
The difference in what
ability
we've paid and what was in the line,
Well, the ability to make the, to answer the calls.
if he can't go, we,
Okay. Then, so you don't know actual number in this case?
I do not run the numbers, no.
Okay. Do we know, okay, so my follow-up question was going to be just how many so there's calls, somebody calls about an animal. I was wondering how many actual pickups of that animal, for instance, like a dog, that might be put in temporarily holding or something. Do you know how?
On a yearly basis, we could hold up to 15 to 20 dogs a year.
Over the course of the year, okay. All right. By the way, are there other animals besides dogs are a principal one,
He
I
handles
guess?
chicken calls, he handles dog calls, cat calls.
Cat calls.
He even goes out his way and does skunk and as much as he can do, but
You mean wild animals in this case? Or?
He tries not to, and I try to keep him from doing it, but if he can help out remedying, he will.
Okay. Thank
Are
you.
there other questions on animal control?
Cat calls.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Chief.
Thank
We
you.
appreciated especially the overview on the safety building and what have you.
That was well done. Thank you.
And at this point, I would like to ask any of the committee members, how many of you have had an opportunity to go to either the police station or the Ridge Station for a look-see, personally?
Thank you for reminding me. I got another announcement to make.
Oh, please make your announcement, and then I'll go on.
Anytime during the day, as long as we don't have an arrest, you can stop by any time, and we'll definitely take you through, and I think Greg will also offer. But I would like to try to designate like a Saturday coming up that we'll kind of have an open house type of thing where I'll be there and the other officer will be there to kind of just walk you through the police department and also the fire department on a designated day. You can do it any time as long as we don't, like I said, have an arrest going on or something, but so I'll definitely get that out to Linda.
At this
Tammy,
point, I
and
would
we'll do
suggest
that.
on a Saturday, the first Saturday that committee members would be available would be the 15th, because we're going to be here for the school next Saturday. So we might look toward that date. I did go through last night, and I was shocked. The stairs going upstairs in the Ridge Station, I'm not a large person per se, but when they bowed as I'm stepping on them, I also have large feet, and I had to step sideways because the stairs themselves, the treads are so narrow. I think it would be extremely enlightening for anyone who has an opportunity to take advantage of that opportunity and go visit. What we've seen here gives you an idea. I got to tell you, seeing it in person was a real eye-opener. So I urge anyone who has the opportunity to take advantage of it and go check it out yourselves.
So that would that be both the police station and the fire department?
And the Ridge Station. Yep. Thank you very much, Glenn. Appreciate the time. Okay, we have the library members here. So let's take a quick gander at that so that the trustees can go on their day.
We have just a two-page handout with some of our statistics that go back a year so you can see some of the circulation and computer usage information to give you an idea of how busy the library is.
What page are we on?
It's page 21.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm neglecting my duties here.
I like color.
Big one.
I knew I was missing something when I transferred last year's packet to this year's. I didn't have my lines. If those are extras, we'll put them right here in the middle, Tom, if those are extras. Everybody have a copy?
Everybody need another copy?
Okay, we'll just set them right here in the
I'm
middle.
gonna
Tom.
set them right there in the middle.
I thought that was a good idea. Thank you.
We're
Okay.
going to start by introducing ourselves. Donna Bunker, Library Director.
Gail Toby, Trustee Chair.
Good morning. I'm Pat Valancourt, one of the trustees.
Good morning, I'm Irene Kreider, one of the alternates.
I'm sorry, I did not hear the last person's name. Thank you.
And one of our friends of the library, Sue Lombard, is here to this one off as well, giving us
Is the mic
support.
on, Gary?
Yeah, just have to speak up.
Closer? Okay.
There
Better?
you go.
Got it.
Better. Okay, so is there an overview you want to give us first? Any significant changes?
The areas that we focused on when we met with the selectmen were both mostly building maintenance issues. So if you look at our building maintenance line, we have the replacement of the furnace and air conditioner in there. The furnace is about 28 years old. The air conditioner almost as old, but in worse shape. So that was a big one. And then we talked about the parking lot and exterior painting. I think you have that information. I'm just not sure where in the budget it was placed. So.
Scott, do you recall if those went into the facilities? Yeah, that's it. If those repairs went into the facilities line?
That was what we discussed that night.
I think they did, yeah.
So the furnace is on what line?
The furnace is in the building maintenance line, 430.
Page 22. They've listed a complete list of items.
The breakdown. I had a couple other larger items in that line, replacing 2 doors downstairs with fire doors. And our front door has had a lot of issues over the past several years, and we're trying to get that totally replaced to avoid all of those. Sometimes it sticks open and you can't close it, and it's just been a mess for many years now.
And that's
Great.
why we're seeing a big increase on that line?
It's
all the stuff underneath.
Right.
Yeah,
So
okay, thank you. Yeah.
each item has
Got it.
the amount there, so you can see how we arrived at the figure that we're asking for in that line. But in that particular line, the 3 big increases, the furnace AC, the fire doors, and the front door. So
Okay.
those were items that were not in the budget last year.
Got it.
Does anyone have any questions on, let's see, libraries begins on page 21 because it encompasses a couple of pages. We'll do it page by page.
Yeah.
On page 21, Joe?
I don't know where it would show. That's why I'm wondering. It's not going to be on 21, I don't think so.
Okay, well, while you're looking for it, Hal?
Donna, I have my standard question on the salaries again. Are we level funding the hours? Because 2018 actual for the aides and assistants is lower than I would have expected.
It is. We asked for an increase, but we don't calculate the salary amounts in the budget, so I would have to turn that one over to Sandy as far as how the figures arrived at.
I have a question.
One moment, we're waiting for
Look at your wage study that I gave you. They have, I'm not throwing you under the bus, but they have a lot of staff that move around. And last year, there was actually plenty of money in the line so that when we calculated, if you look under the library section on page 2 of the wage study, it covers their aides and assistants. If you add those numbers up, it is certainly within, and is very close to the 50,000. So I'm not going to touch it.
Okay.
It's so minute of difference that
Okay.
if they have to work a couple extra hours, it's
Right,
covered.
yeah.
So that's why. Right, and other than myself, we have 5 part-time staff, so we have a lot of part-timers at the library.
Joe?
There was a needed repair that was done at the front walkway.
Speak into the mic, Joe.
I'm sorry, there was a needed repair. By the way, congratulations on your...
Thank you. Thank you very much.
There was a needed repair on the front walkway, and I don't see it. Maybe I'm just looking at you. Can you tell me what that was? What it cost? I'm sorry.
Yes. So I don't have the actual figure for that repair in front of me. It came out of our building maintenance line. We budget every year for general repairs. It was larger than the amount we budgeted, so we had some help from the Friends of the Library to pay for that. But the walkway, again, like the door, for multiple years, had bubbled up and was creating unsafe walking conditions. So the pavement, I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but it had kind of buckled, so people were tripping as they came in. We tried patching it a couple times. That almost made it worse. So we completely took up the walkway and replaced it with pavers so it would be level.
I went over and looked at that. I mean, I see that it was something necessary, and there was a lot of kind of slipshod, or maybe you shouldn't call it that, but inadequate work that had been done underneath it before. I think that's why some of the problem was happening. But it seems like it was repaired decently. But I was wondering what that cost was. You don't know for sure right now? Or?
Can I answer that?
I can tell you that we had I can tell you a good news that it was like $3,800 to destroy it. And we asked Charlie Pease, can you help us?
Yes,
Charlie
yes,
Pease did this and saved us maybe I'm wrong, it's not 38, $3,300, that's what I meant. And then the cost of the walkway to install it, I think was about $5,000.
Okay. So, and we saved the cost of
Of
demolition?
this demolition.
Yep, okay. And just, I heard, I don't know, that there was some talk of replacing the fine work that's around the door, which is old, and maybe that was, and I hope it was incorrect, because I admire that actually as part of the building, but is there any intention?
Well, we're working on replacing the front door, but as far as I know, that would stay. Just the door itself would be replaced.
I saw some need for some stuff at the
Joe,
bottom,
I'm
but I
going to
just-
cut you
yeah.
off there because we're not
Okay.
doing
Good.
conversations. We're asking questions and getting answers. Are there other questions? Michael?
Well, there's some quotes here for, I guess, doing I assume, the parking lot on a separate.
Yeah.
And I'm a little confused because one looks like you're totally replacing it, and then what appears to be...
I think the first one's to replace it, and the second one's to seal coat, right?
Two options.
So it's two different options, you're not going to try to...
Correct.
Yeah.
And I had the same question earlier, and I spoke with Donna, and she's got a wonderful way of explaining it. So I'm
We
gonna
have
turn
done
it
that
over to her.
seal coating option, so just the top part of it a couple times, it doesn't hold. So I believe it was Mr. Gunter, when he was here, that went out and got the estimates for us on seal coating it and having it replaced totally. So that replacement would include digging up and putting a whole new coat over it, not just the ceiling, so. But we've done it, I think, 2, if not 3 times in the last 12 to 15 years, so it doesn't hold.
Scott?
I'm just asking because you just mentioned that that was a quote from Mr. Gunther got you that quote. Has that quote been updated? Because Mr. Gunther's been...
No, it was, it was Charlie Pease, sorry.
Oh, Charlie
Yes.
Pease got your quote.
Sorry.
This is I just wanted to make sure it was recent.
Yes, it was recent.
Because he has...
It says July 26, 2018.
Right.
So is this in the budget, or is this... What? I mean, I'm a little confused on why
I
we
think
have
it's
the
in
two
the...
options here.
I think it went to the facilities?
It's in the facilities. It'll be in the warrant article for the facilities committee.
Which one?
Which one, the replacement or the seal coat?
And I believe it's the replacement. It is the replacement.
It's in the warrant.
Right, there's a separate warrant article which
Okay.
we'll get to later. Joe?
In regard to that, Donna, and maybe get some additional help here, but do you know when they did the seal coat? Was it, I know it's maybe difficult to even...
You got to use the mic, Joe. You can't
Okay.
be going back and forth.
When they did,
Just
when
ask
they,
your question.
when they did the seal coat, did they simply, there's two ways to do it. The simple, cheap way, ineffective way is to apply it just to run around sealing cracks and maybe digging them out slightly. If anybody's driven Route 28 this year back in the summer, they were doing it the proper way. That was, of course, the state doing it, where they take, you'll see somebody out there with a large bladed asphalt saw, and they cut through all the cracks, and then they seal coat. That's the way it should be done. It's more expensive, but far more effective, lasts longer. Do you know which way they did it in the
I
past?
believe they did it just the first way. I think on the 2 estimates, if you look at them, the second one has that jigsaw cutting and replacing.
Okay, because I would point out that that makes a huge difference, and that is, if they did it the cheap way in the past, that's very possibly why it didn't work out too well. So you might consider that as a possible, because that's still cheaper than a full repave. I can't speak to other aspects of it right now, but that's an important point as far as costs.
Any other questions on the library's proposed operating budget? Hal?
Well, it's actually on this thing that we were looking at, what does the third page mean?
Yeah.
So we got the 2 quotes that we were talking about, and then there's a third page that's an email, and I wasn't sure what it referenced.
I believe that, let me pull out my documents too. I believe that it's going to be exterior painting, so we couldn't get an invoice. But, so that would be the exterior painting of the library. Again, not something that's in our budget. It would either go to the facilities or a warrant article. So we'd have to defer to Scott on that one as well.
No, I couldn't figure out what it was for.
It's, Sandy, is that for the painting of the exterior?
Exterior painting of the building.
2,900? 2,900 with all the prep and us buying the materials. I'm assuming the contractor's gonna buy the materials? Sandy?
Hodgson.
On the email, this Jason Hodgson said 2,900 with all the prep, and I'm assuming, ask me, is Jason's gonna buy the materials? Or you're not sure? Yeah. So Donna, it was an email to you. Do you think
Correct.
Jason's gonna buy all the materials?
I do not know. We're asked to get those for informational purposes, but if it doesn't go into the library budget, we send them on to town for facilities to follow up with whoever. And at this point, sometimes it's a little confusing, library budget, town budget, and facilities.
So I think we could probably save these figures for when we get to the facilities warrant article, and this serves as additional backup for the portion of the requested amount that pertains to the library.
I'm reading the email just to finish up. If this is from Jason, I'm assuming Jason's buying the materials and that includes.
That would be my presumption, but you know what happens when you presume, so.
It says us buying material, meaning Jason.
Right. So we can visit that now that we know that that question is out there. We can try and get some clarification on that before we get to the facilities total warrant article. Are there any other questions regarding the library's proposed budget? Okay, seeing none?
Thank you.
Ladies, thank you for coming.
Have a nice afternoon.
When we introduced ourselves, we left off Betty Smith is wearing a different hat today, but she's a library trustee also.
Thank you.
You're lucky you didn't get an album.
Keeping them in line.
He's back there.
I could have all you in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's her fault. This is impressive.
This is a copy of what everybody's back.
It's kind of trailed up.
Have to bring back
You're
information.
doing an amazing job. Yeah, I know. I'm currently developing books. Found a great need to escape in novels recently.
Understood. Pass these around. Okay, so we do have our assistant fire chief here. He's gonna get one. And before I take off, can you, when they come around, can you give Greg a copy of that as well, please? Because I'm kind of stuck here. Well, because I can't.
Greg.
Get right out here.
Thank you.
So, I understand that first of all, what this is my questions. As I had indicated in that little letter that came with your packets or email or whatever. If you had questions, please write them down. And when I was going through the fire department budget, as you can see on this first page, I had numerous questions, so I just decided to type them out. And in the interest of, because we have so much to do, thinking that perhaps some of you may have the same questions as well, and this way they're all on one list. We've also, I've heard of proposed warrant articles, which are my questions on the second page of this handout, that has not been actively addressed to completion by the Board of Selectmen, which is why you're not going to see a warrant article in your warrant article packets pertaining to this. The last understanding I had, the chief was going to be coming today with, I had hoped, packets for us or presentation of some type. Did he send anything along that line?
I have proposals for air packs.
But are they copies for us to see?
Yep.
And we each have copies?
Yep.
My concern on those is that the selectmen, you've not seen any of that information yet?
We, for the record, we discussed this with the fire chief at our last selectmen's meeting. We have not, we've seen the, we asked them to go back.
Don't pass them out yet, please.
We asked them to
Pass
go,
them to you.
we asked them to go back and come up with a plan of, and we're not saying what plan, but we said, if I may, they came up, the full proposal was for $250,000. And I thought with the safety complex and that, I asked the fire chief if he could go back and maybe we could do a third this year, a third next year, and a third the year after. So I have not, this is work they've done since the selectmen's meeting, so I have not seen this most recent proposal, and neither has the board of selectmen.
No, Joe, leave them. We're not passing them out just yet. Okay, my concern is this, and I'm sad that you're the one here hearing this, Greg, because this really should be directed to the chief, so feel free to pass it along. Last year, for those of us that were here, you recall that when we came up and we were talking about the addition for the narrow station, the initial figure we were given was $45,000, and we kind of scratched our heads and said, what? And the chief went back to the drawing board and sent the figure of $200,000. He did not come to the budget committee meetings to show us diagrams, whatever. Because it was a safety issue, the committee agreed to recommend that to the voters. The voters voted for it, and when the bids came in, they came in at $390,000 and $520,000. Needless to say, $200,000 wasn't going to cut it. As a result of that, we had all agreed, those of us that were here, that this year we want facts, we want figures, we want things we can see, we want specifics, not a generalization. That being said, because the selectmen really haven't seen this kind of a proposal or what have you, I've tossed some questions on that I would ask about this proposed purchase. You may have additional questions that you'd like to ask. I'm suggesting that we bypass the fire department's budget until they can get us background information on these lines, any others that you may have, and packets should be prepared. Again, once burned, twice leery. You know, we went with the idea last year because it was a safety issue, and we're talking about safety equipment that I know nothing about. I don't know how many of you know what these air packs, this, that, and everything else are. I can guess looking at the movies. I definitely want specifics before we address this. Otherwise, we're going to be spinning our wheels and potentially recommending to the town more money than what's necessary, or not recommending it because we don't have enough information to make a decision. And it is evidently a safety issue.
Do you need a motion?
It would probably be helpful, but first, before well, go ahead, I'll let you.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and second. Do any of you have any comments to make? I know I've taken up the floor here, but...
Ginger, this is all with references, is with reference to warrant article number 7, fire apparatus lease purchase?
No, that is the existing lease purchase on a piece of equipment we currently have. We do not have a warrant article
I
yet.
don't have it yet.
Because the selectmen have not even received, they received this information at 4:30 in the afternoon before a meeting.
I'm ready to vote.
Grace?
Are we voting to not talk about the
We're
fire
voting
department?
to put off talking about the fire department
At all,
until
including
such
this.
time that we receive information that we're requesting.
Okay.
How can we make, in my mind, how can we make decisions if we don't have the background information? I'm not willing to take the word of departments any longer.
Or a budget
Yeah, we
committee.
need this, we need that, and this is how much it costs. I want to see the documentation.
I have one question that doesn't have to do with that. In the fire department budget?
We can address it at that time.
Okay.
Grace.
Madam Chair,
Wait.
may I make a comment?
Please.
It would be best not to leave it that open-ended because this committee is required to address the budget.
And we shall on December 12th.
All right, you said until such time as the information comes in. If
Oh,
it
I'm
never
sorry.
came in,
No,
you're still
no.
obligated.
So you may want to hold off on your motion for
Amend it.
just a moment. Greg, do you have a copy of?
Your questions? Yep, I just got to get those back now.
Yeah, hold on to those.
Can we ask for that info ahead of time so we can?
Yes,
review it?
we should, ideally, Greg,
Yep.
those packets should be put together with that requested backup information. And every other department gives, as you saw with the library, they had all kinds of detail, etc. It would be extremely helpful if they could be delivered here to Town Hall by noon next Friday, so that we can get them Saturday morning when we come in.
We don't have a selected meeting, so we're not gonna be able to see.
So you can't act on it until your meeting then, right?
Like, we can't
Which is
vote on it until the next selectmen's meeting,
Which is when?
The 11th.
December 11th.
So we can't get it ahead of time.
That's right, we can't.
Can we get, may I speak? Can we get
Absolutely.
just information by Friday, and then we'll have word from the selectmen if it's been amended or whatnot after their meeting? I mean, that way we at least get it ahead of time and we can talk about it on the 12th.
Could I ask one question
Certainly.
of the deputy chief? When the chief proposed this last week, he proposed the warrant article of 250,000. Has this, is that, just for my knowledge, to pass back to the Board of Selectmen, have they figured out a way we could maybe spread this out over 3 years?
The SCBA company would not give us a quote for just a third of the tax. He doesn't agree with that. There was discussion of maybe a lease purchase or something. I do not know, I'm not familiar with it.
So the warrant article will probably still be $250,000.
The warrant article would be for the full amount for the packs, all the compressors, the compressor and everything.
I just wanted to get, thank you.
Brad?
Just, I know the conversation revolved around this last year about it, and we went ahead and approved it. At that time, there was some discussion about why it was not, could it be bonded and spread out over even more years to lessen the year-to-year tax impact. Is that a consideration?
Well, we're going for a bond for the safety complex.
I just think we're putting a lot on the table for tax.
Well, one of my things is we decided to go forward with the safety complex. We didn't, and I'm not trying to, but we kind of found out about this air pack thing pretty much last minute. When I say last minute,
About the what? I'm sorry.
this particular, some of these warrant articles that we said, and I had communicated to the budget committee through Ginger that we really can't act on these because we feel we need more information. We wanted to go back because what a lot of municipalities do is they'll buy their packs over multiple years to kind of lessen the impact. This is the first, I like this option, maybe a lease purchase. Maybe they'll spread it out over several years. But the selectmen really haven't had a chance to digest and evaluate the lease purchase option at this point in time. And I would feel irresponsible to move ahead with this until the selectmen had an opportunity to vet this.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're where we were last year, just really pressured to go after this, and we don't have the information, and it's not ready, then we don't go on it.
Right.
We don't let it go this year. I mean, you're already looking at huge, pretty substantial tax increase, no matter how you bond the safety complex. I mean, even the other warrant articles add up to like a buck a thousand, so it's, it's substantial. And I think we're asking asking a lot of the voters and potentially turning them against any tax increase. So I think we need to be careful how we present this.
Betsy?
So if they look at a lease purchase, that way they can get them all at once and maybe lease purchase over 3 to 5 years?
Again,
Greg didn't have the,
I wasn't there for I was told this morning, that there was a talk between, were you involved, Sandy? And the other Sandy was in there, they were discussing it, and there was a suggestion of a lease purchase. I don't know the detail, I cannot give you any details.
We're beginning to discuss this.
Right. At this point in time, what I would like, I'm going to make a decision here. We do have a motion on the table. And we may have to come back on the 12th for some other things anyway, which is posted for town or school. Our request will be for the packets to be prepared just as you're preparing them for the selectmen. The selectmen are going to need to review them before their meeting so that they can decide if they're even going to go forward with the article or not. But if packets are prepared for budget committee members as well, we can at least be looking at what you're proposing for the items. In addition to needing, I would like my questions answered on those particular line items, and if any of you have other questions, just let me know and I'll add them to the list and get them over to the fire department, rather than individuals going to them. Any request for additional information should come through the chair. It just streamlines it.
How soon do you need that then?
When you get it, when you have it. But if we could have those, you're going to need to get them to the selectmen as soon as possible for their meetings. So again, I would ask that a sufficient number of packets, we usually do 20 so that there are enough for the recording secretary and whatever to be looking on while we discuss, when we discuss. So we have a motion.
Yeah.
Is there further discussion about the motion?
Not this discussion as much as, could you restate the motion so we know what we're voting on?
So
The motion was to table discussion of the fire department budget
Until
December
12th with the asked for information.
that's the motion. Do we have a second?
You know what? I already second. Yeah.
Okay.
Just further question, ask for further discussion. So just simple, what's the actual number right now in the request for air packs? What's the number?
There isn't an official request.
No, I know there's not an official. I said just the current thought. Let's put it that
Stick with the
way.
motion.
Well, hold a second.
The thought that
The discussion is
the
on the
initial
motion.
number is 250,000.
No, not, I didn't ask dollar. I'm asking the number of air packs. Are we talking
We're
2
not going to
or
get
20?
into that.
What, just
No.
the current, why?
No.
Why?
Because we're not going to be discussing that.
We're not discussing it, I'm asking,
potential-
you've
Excuse
taken,
me.
instead of
Let me
taking all of this
explain.
time, he could have given me a number.
No, he can't, because they don't have a firm proposal
He
yet,
has
Joe.
a current number in mind.
Joe, done.
He has a current number in
Done.
mind. You're being
We are-
arbitrary
Yes.
and unreasonable.
No, I am not.
Yes, you
We're
are.
acting on the motion.
That's right. And you
Is
asked for
there
further
any-
discussion. And I am proposing,
Not dis-
I asked for a simple number.
Call the question?
Thank you. I will take a roll call for this. Betsy, to end discussion, to end discussion is
Yes.
yes. To continue discussion is no.
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Hal?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And yes. Motion passed to end discussion. We are now acting on the main motion, which is to hold off discussion on the fire department budget until December 12th, when we will have more information available. I'm sorry?
No, it's to hold off until the 12th.
Right.
We don't know whether we're going to have more information.
We should have at least line items to go over. This is a two-part. This is their proposed warrant article as well as their operating budget.
I understand.
Okay. We'll discuss what's available at that time.
Right, so it's just to postpone.
Correct.
So should I be voting or abstaining?
Choose an impact.
No, the budget, no, abstain. I would say abstain.
I'll abstain because of my
Okay.
connection.
Brian?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Hal?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And yes. So we will defer any discussion of the fire department's operating budget until December 12th. Mark your calendars, we'll be back that night.
Well, it's Monday?
It's a Wednesday. No, it's a Monday.
I think
It's a Wednesday.
Sure.
The 10th is a Monday.
The selectmen's meeting would be the day before the,
It's a Wednesday.
Oh, so we have two potential alternate dates. We're not choosing the Monday, we're choosing the Wednesday.
Do you allow a
because the
little more
selectmen's meeting's
time?
on the 11th,
I understand.
and we should be able to,
Well, you may or you may not, and we'll address it when we come
If
back
I
on
did.
that. Certainly.
just one selectman, but I would suggest probably the best option is to go with the lease purchase, because it spread the payments out over several years. But
Okay, thank you. Again, I wish the chief had been here so that we could have addressed this directly with him, but please pass along our conversations to him.
I'll do the best I can to get your information for you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
We don't have a-
We don't have a
We don't
chief
have a
right
chief
now?
right now?
What? You just said because we don't have a chief right now.
So we don't have a chief right now. That's what you mean?
Yeah, he did definitely say that.
That's what you just
He did definitely say that.
Yeah, he just said, I'll do my best to get your information because we don't have a chief right now.
Or he may have meant that.
That could be true.
one should have been,
Okay, folks.
he just pulled that on him this morning.
So we're going to, just so everybody knows, we're going to break for lunch at 12. Go to lunch from 12 to 1. So let's start with page 1. Go through the starting with the selectmen, and let's see if we can't get some of these sections knocked off for us.
We're gonna do minutes.
We're going to do minutes at the end.
Is your thought to pass each piece?
Correct.
So theoretically, if we are finished with the police department and the library, for example.
Correct.
We could have, had we chosen.
At that time, yes, but I was wanting to, so department heads coming, let them go on their way. Just because we're stuck here for the day.
And what time is the planned end today?
We try to go till 3, minimum of 3. At that time, what we've done in the past is look to see what do we still have left to do. If we can knock it off in an hour or so, then we take a vote to see if we're going to stay for that extra half hour, whatever the case may be. If it's going to go longer than that, then we'd have to come back on another time anyway.
Thank you.
Just before we get started, if it's any of it, I will not be here on Monday, so if possible, into this meeting, if we could do the water district.
Oh, yes.
Just
Oh, yeah, we'll get those before we get done today. Yeah, all the districts will get done. Okay, we're all back. So, page 1. Selectmen have a total requested of $15,824.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend that amount.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions regarding any of the selectmen line items?
Just
Okay.
a quick question.
Certainly, Michael.
Well, the increased budget, is that for the 2 additional selectmen that are going to be voted in
yes,
this year?
Currently, yes, the chairman gets 3,500 and each member of the board gets 2,500.
Okay, thanks.
Which works out to be about a penny an hour when I was doing it, so.
Not much.
I got a whole penny an hour, believe it or not. Any other questions on the selectmen's lines? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, raise your hands. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Are we doing roll calls or hands?
Let's just do hands.
Why don't we just do, why don't we just do hands unless there's a...
Unless this is a
conflict.
controversy, not a controversy, but a lot of discussion.
And there are currently how many here?
16. Okay, town administrators section. Requesting $109,280.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend that amount.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just want to double check with Sandy again. This is, the difference in benefits is because you put a family plan in instead of...
Yes, we have to advertise for family plan.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on town administrator line? Joe?
To clarify, the town administrator, has there been one in place all year?
We did replace the former town administrator with a new town administrator. That she resigned after approximately 8 to 9 months.
And she covered how much of the year?
Wow, Sandy, what was she had, about 8 months?
Yes, well,
7 months. And however, we have been expending funds out of there because we hired Ms. Baloo as acting as our interim town administrator, so I believe we're paying her under that line already. Yes. Thank you.
So what? I'm sorry.
The interim, we hired somebody part-time to act as interim town administrator till we got a new town administrator who's also being paid out of that line.
And that person is now, I don't know who that is, actually.
That's Tammy Baloo.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Thank you, Sandy.
Okay, Michael, did you have a question?
I actually had the same question. So we have an interim town manager right now, and we're looking for a permanent administrator. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions on the town administrator section? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So the moderator, wow, $280.
Well, there's only one election next year.
I know that. We have a motion.
I'd like to recommend that amount.
Second. We have a motion and a second for $280. Any questions? Just to head it off at the pass, it's less money because there are fewer elections this year.
Should we put it out to bid?
Seeing no questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
And we have one abstention. Yeah. Okay, moving on to page 2. Executive office. The total is at the top of the following page, page 3. Looking for $189,592.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend that amount.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
On line 625, postage, executive office goes from 3,000 to 12.
I believe we're taking all the postage and putting it in there.
Thank you.
So we used to have postage broken out by each department, but it was recommended us by Sandy that it made more sense of us managing it from a centralized account.
Other questions? Hal?
So on the land use administrator salary, I'm just looking back to 2017, we actually spent quite a bit. And we're...
What line? Sorry.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
which line are you
sorry, I'm
talking?
sorry, it's the fourth line from the top. So,
Oh,
I
Linda?
know, yeah, I know
Oh,
we
sorry.
adopted less in 2018, but we spent more. And so I'm really wondering, do we have sufficient amount in the 2019 budget?
Can I?
I'm just looking,
Actually, excuse me if I may, then, everybody, is that the line we have to make,
But that's in the other budget. This is the one without the difference.
so should I make an amendment now and here?
That's up to you and Ginger.
Okay. So as you know, we, looking at some salaries and stuff, we decided.
There were
to-
a couple that you were
So
talking
one of those salaries would be the land use administrator salary, and the other one would be the finance person, Sandy. And we had, based on some information, we looked at neighboring, looking at other towns in the area, we wanted to put those salaries more in line with neighboring communities.
All right, so let me ask you this. Do you have a total figure between salary and
We haven't
benefits?
voted it yet, though, so we can't act on it.
Oh, the selectmen voted it.
We did vote it?
Yeah, but it
Oh.
didn't make it into this budget because we did it at last Tuesday's meeting.
okay, so you are gonna up the number.
We are gonna up the numbers.
Okay.
It just, we did it at Tuesday night meeting, and I guess, it was probably easy to just up the bottom line, or.
No, you should put it
No,
in
we
this
talked
line.
about increasing, the finance salary and the,
Yes, you motion those two positions, wage lines.
yeah, which is not in this budget, but are in the,
The budget that was passed out to the budget committee was prior to your
Yes.
meeting, so
Right.
therefore it is not in the copy they.
Right.
Are you saying that all salary lines are being increased or
No.
just the
No,
land
just-
use?
no, just those two.
Which, the other one is land use and which?
One would be the board administrator's salary.
Do you have a sheet at all?
Hold on, let me answer the question first. One would be the board administrator's salary, and the other one would be the finance director's salary.
Okay, so I'm going to offer a suggestion here. It's 11:30. We can review the rest of the executive office section, and after lunch, perhaps we can get a figure which shows the total for those affected lines for land use administrator, secretary,
And then
and
finance.
and then finance. when we
Because we're
get
not
to
into the
finance,
finance.
Because we're not
office.
into
But
finance.
I thought
yet.
I'd put that out there.
Yep. How about that?
Okay.
We can discuss
The rest.
the rest.
So as part of that preparation, can we just get how many hours we're looking at relative to the other years so that we know how much effort we're expecting of Linda relative to other years? Because I still, my question still remains, if she's paid hourly and we look at what we did in 2017, we obviously needed more of her help. And I look at 2018, actual versus adopted, and we're not through the full year, and we needed more of her help. And so I know you're increasing the salary, but I'd like to know the hours associated with
Sure.
it because
I will,
maybe we need more help.
I will,
Scott, I can answer that.
May I add a comment relative to that? One piece of information is that some years, like in that one year where we didn't have a planner for 3 months, so I was filling in doing the work of a planner. In other years, we haven't had a land use secretary, so at a bare minimum, the minutes still have to be done.
Right.
So it depends on the year. There's really no way to predict it, and I'm part-time, but I do fill in other areas that need to be done, and it fluctuates based on the number of applications to the Planning and Zoning Board as well.
I understand all that, but my
And yes, it's
it
increasing.
looks like it's going up. So I'm just asking, are we, we're talking about more money for a raise. Have we thought about sufficient hours for her?
Well, it depends, though. She's just.
I understand that.
all
but
right,
the trend-
I mean,
we don't need to discuss it now. Let's see what the numbers are when we come back
When
and
we
how
come
many
back.
hours, and then we can have that discussion as opposed to
Madam Chair,
theoretical.
because we have a motion on the floor, do we need
Yes.
to rescind it so we don't have a couple of motions going on at the same time?
Well, at the moment, the only motion is for that bottom line,
Right.
and we're discussing it. Discussing the
So no one
entire
has that.
section. We won't be voting on it at that time, but if we don't have a motion, we can't discuss the section, period.
Okay, well, I thought you were saying we're going to leave this section and move to the next one.
No, not yet. We will, but not yet.
Theoretically, though, we can't approve this until we have those final numbers.
Correct. We're not going to be approving it. But I just want to get any questions while we're in the section. We know of one question we're going to get additional information for. Are there other questions on the executive office lines?
Yes.
Grace? and then
I'm
Hal.
assuming that the significant, well, somewhat significant change in the municipal secretary salary has to do with numbers of hours. It's like the same situation, how many, because 21,000 was budgeted, less than 10,000 has been used and the line's been decreased. I'm sorry, I'm looking at
The
115.
municipal secretary was vacant for a period,
Okay,
so.
but you're still anticipating less money than last year, for
Yeah.
next year.
So what happens is the departments come in and tell us what their estimated hours are gonna be, and we try to develop this budget to the best estimates we can with the available information. If I recall, is that when the municipal secretary actually went downstairs?
Yeah, she
The
did.
answer to that question, Scott, is that the answer to that question is that the new municipal secretary's wages are a lower hourly rate.
Thank you.
Are there other questions in the executive office? Oh, Hal, you had a question?
The software, what software are we buying? It's 5 or 6 up from the bottom, please.
Line 621?
Yes. We haven't bought some, and that looks like we're buying some.
Sandy, do you know what that software is?
Some of it is for the Express Scribe, because when we change computers, we have to relicense. We have computer upgrades that need to be done this year. We have to pay for our Microsoft licenses, Excel licenses, those kinds of things. So we have to have a line in there to expend it from.
So
we don't know
no,
what those costs are going to be yet, because we don't know what
Yeah.
Microsoft's going to charge yet for
right,
licenses.
so it's more like licenses and stuff like that
It
as
is.
opposed to a
Yeah,
system.
if we had to
Okay.
buy, like I said, if we had to buy a software specific, you got to pay for the licensing and the software. That's what
Yeah,
that's for.
and maybe some updates and stuff, okay.
Any other questions in the executive office?
So,
Betty?
Why is the postage going up so much?
Because we took all the postage lines and put it
Okay,
with
yeah, sorry.
that was my question too, that was at the place where we put it.
the, yeah.
Anything else? Okay, so we're going to move on.
You get a motion on it.
Yeah, so we do need to rescind. Thank you.
Sure, I'd like to rescind my motion.
Second,
Second?
beat ya.
Okay.
Well, he has to take it off.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, second's got to come on first.
Bad.
You did it, and you did, yeah.
You can elbow a woman, that's.
Okay. Moving on to page 3, restoration of records. There's an amount of $7,221.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend that amount.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and as you can see, there's an explanation there. There's going to be a little bit more done this year as opposed to past years, and that's why the increase.
So
Yes,
that's my question, how far along are we and how much more do we have to go to catch up?
That I don't know.
That would be a question for the town clerk.
Yeah.
Well, we can.
Well, that's more for curiosity's sake, how much longer we're going to be
Well,
needing to do those?
no, it's more an efficiency question. I mean, if we have a certain amount of work to be done, in some cases, not all, it's better to just get somebody in, do it, and get it done, and then they charge you less. And so, if this is something where we're close to getting done, maybe we just bite the bullet and get it
I
done.
can't actually, I can't answer that question, Hal. That's a question for the town clerk.
Okay. I mean, if we're going to be playing catch-up for the next 10 years, well, no, I don't want to add another $30,000 to the
It's
budget.
my understanding, because I've actually asked this question a lot. In today's day and age, I would think you could scan or digitize all these town records, but it's my understanding that these records, you have to actually keep the originals. That's what I've been told several times, but I
We can
couldn't.
find out.
Certainly what the chief said, too.
We can see what,
I can see his difference though, because he's actually maintaining evidence that could end up in a court case.
Yeah, so anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering whether by spending a little, we can save ultimately some money.
Any other questions on restoration of records? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions because the clerk isn't here. Going on to voter registration.
I moved the $872.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for $872. Any questions?
Just, there's only one election this year, so all that stuff's going way down for this year.
Seeing no questions, all those in favor of 872, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions.
I'll move the line for elections for $2,332.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for $2,232. Any questions on elections?
I have one comment to make, and that is that when I was testing the voting machine this past election, it failed. And at some point we may want to consider, instead of investing more money, we might have to actually buy one. Now that's actually going to be a difficulty because they don't make them anymore. So I'm not sure what the answer is going to be. But we did ask that another additional amount of money goes in for the repair. And I'm not sure which line that would be. But when we asked the gentleman that fixed it, he said, if you're budgeting $250, you better put some more in. And I quite
Can I ask
frankly
a
don't
question?
know where that line is. Yeah, go ahead.
So, when you said they don't make them, they must make another machine.
Well, that's, and you know, at some point we might
We
have to end
have
up
to-
buying that. I don't think we're there yet, but
Yeah.
that's for another year's consideration. But
Sure.
there should be at least a little bit more money in for some maintenance, because like, we've replaced what we could replace, and it still makes a funny noise. I mean, it's, yeah. So, anyway, did
Is there a
so my
particular, would
question
that
is,
be
Scott-
under, where would that be? Do you
Well,
know
that's
which
what I
line?
was wondering. I was wondering if somehow that request came through
Because I know
Savannah or
it's
not.
printing and administrative cost, but I don't know.
Maybe that's something we can ask separately.
Maintenance line.
I mean, it's not a big number. It's probably another $200 to $500, but.
Yeah, but if we were
everything adds up.
gonna, you could have, the budget committee could amend that here.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that there's at least a little extra in for that.
Joe?
In regard to this conversation you had, was there indications that there are parts availability that are still good and the maintenance is feasible for the foreseeable future, as far as if you want to maintain it?
They are using parts from,
Scavenging?
they're scavenging parts. They're scavenging parts. So the part we got is not a new part. It's a part from a machine that was turned in from somebody else.
Guardian Metals or somebody? Okay.
So,
Okay.
Again, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. It's only a few $100s, but I'd just like to see something in there for that.
Okay, so do you want to amend the motion?
I don't know where it goes. That's my
So
problem.
you know what line, if we wanted to
Well-
increase maintenance on the election machine?
Yes, it goes from the printing and admin costs of elections.
Yeah, the 550.
Portion line 550.
Yeah.
Would you like to make a motion, Hal?
That's not my number, so that's not.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to up that by $250.
So you want to go to,
Second.
So let's make it an even $200. Let's make it an even $2,000.
Which line number is this now?
right here,
550.
printing and administrative cost of elections, 550.
Let's at
So
least
you want
put
to
it
make it, budget committee recommend?
You've already approved that, you've got to unapprove it.
No, we didn't approve it
We
yet.
didn't do.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were
We
discussing
approved
this
voter
one.
registration. This
So what
down
Hal is
elections.
doing
my
is
apologies,
making
thank
a
you.
motion to amend.
Yeah,
Correct.
from 1,800 to 2,000.
Line
Just so we have a
550.
little bit extra. I mean, that,
Line 550.
550.
Nobody yet.
All right.
Okay, so we have an amendment. Do we have a second?
I seconded it.
Okay, I didn't hear that. So we have a motion to amend printing and admin costs, line 550, going from 1,800 to 2,000. That's going to bring the section total to $2,432. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to say that I support this, but I can't vote for this because the selectmen didn't vote on this, but
Understood.
yeah, I'm not, my vote's not a reflection that
Second was.
Go ahead.
Okay, so on the amendment, all those in favor of the increase say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
And one
Abstain.
abstention.
Well, why would I abstain?
Oh, so you have to vote against it?
You'd be an abstention because it hasn't
It'd be an
been
abstention.
addressed by the board yet.
Oh, all right, put me down as abstention.
That's what I did.
Thank you.
It's more politically polite.
That's right. Okay, so now we gotta go back to, that now becomes the motion, the main motion, for $2,432 for elections. Any additional questions? I don't think so. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention. Okay, going on to Finance Administration. Before a motion is made,
Wow.
well, I'm just trying to curtail the same discussion that we
we
had
actually,
on.
you have
admin.
this number right now, right? Yeah, but we didn't handle, we're not working off of that. So,
Okay, so just so that everybody knows what they're referring to about the new budget and whatever, they had made these two changes and have a whole new packet for us. I said, let's not hand them out yet, because inquiring minds would not necessarily accept that only those two sections were changed, and I'd have people going back and forth between two. There is a complete set for each of us at the end you can take home with you, but I figured it was better to work off of the set that you were reviewing and making your notes on,
Absolutely.
as opposed to going back and forth. So that's what that new set is in reference to.
So do we need a motion to hold off until December 12th?
Ginger, I can read those numbers into the record
If
if
you
you
can
want.
read those numbers for us, that would be wonderful. Before we make a motion,
Okay.
let's get those new numbers.
So, the finance salary line
Which page?
would be,
Okay, we're on page 3, the bottom of page 3. Starting with the salary line.
the
Okay.
salary line would be $60,444. I'd like to go on record to say thank you to the Board of Selectmen for that. I do appreciate it. The Social Security line
Which is going to be
on
on
page
page
4
4.
has changed to $3,748. The Medicare line, right below it, has changed to $876. And the only other one that changes with it is the retirement line below that, and that is $6,815. So the department total becomes $102,605 even, for a decrease of $2,176.
Could you give the retirement line again, please?
Retirement line was $6,815.
Thank you.
Okay, did everybody get the numbers? Which
The
one are you using,
decrease,
Betty?
one more time, please.
I'm
What was
sorry?
that, Betty?
The decrease.
The decrease is $2,176.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now we have a new proposed total for Finance Administration.
Second.
Okay, so that amount is $102,605.
That amount is again, please?
Are there any questions on any of the Finance Administration lines? Grace?
I am assuming that the change on line 621 is that there was software bought that we don't need again this year. Is that correct?
yeah, we did, yeah, we bought a software, timekeeping stuff for the,
Okay.
finance package.
Okay.
Tom, did I see your hand up for a question?
The same question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah,
Hal?
do we have a reserve fund for anything like the software that we can contribute on an ongoing basis so we don't have a bump? It's better just to finance it through the line item. Okay,
Yeah, that's the way we've been handling that.
okay, that's fine.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of $102,605 for finance administration,
I
say
didn't
aye.
have a motion in
Aye.
a second.
Yeah, we had a motion.
I
That's
didn't
who that
hear
is.
it.
Betsy
Betty?
and Betty.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Linda. I'll make them repeat it loud.
So we're voting on the increase and then,
No,
No,
you've
we're
just
just voting
given
on the
it,
number.
because we didn't have a motion yet, which is why I
Alright,
didn't do
sorry.
the motion first.
okay, thanks.
So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Yes.
Sandy would be able to give you the same information from the executive department that we move forward on, because it's the same exact scenario.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it so we don't forget it.
Well, didn't you want to know the hours?
But
We'll get it later.
I think the concern was the actual.
and that was on page 2.
Whether the hours were
No.
administrative.
Two.
Okay.
Oh, the bottom line is on top of page 3.
Top of page 2. The land use administrator salary.
Yes.
So line 191, and that's changing to,
$26,611.
Okay.
okay,
Social Security, line 220,
Yeah.
is now $6,331. Medicare right below it is $1,480, which brings the bottom department line
which is on the
Page-
top of page 3.
to $191,947. I have 20 cents, but I'll wipe that out because we like even numbers.
Thank you for
It's 20
that.
cents.
I'm sorry, 191,
191,947.
my pencil broke.
We made the motion that we accept the figure of $191,947 for that
Second.
category.
Okay. Tom made the motion, Dan seconded.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that amount?
Well, let's just ask the question I had. Are we comfortable that we have enough hours in there?
I think the Board of Selectmen, when we were going through the budget, felt comfortable with it. We had discussions with the administrator, and if we didn't feel comfortable, we probably would have increased the line at that time.
Got it. Well, I know, like, when, we did, get James, and he's doing pretty good. And so, I mean, I can understand some of the changes, but it's not pleasant to be caught short, when you need stuff
But they
done.
can overspend
But
that
it
line if
it's a
situation.
balance because there's not money being spent in another line.
If there is, yeah.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of $191,947, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Let's go back to, that's good, that way I won't forget it.
Audit services.
Okay, audit services, page 4.
I'll move that number of,
15,425.
thank you, $15,425.
Take your pick.
Take your pick. Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of $15,425, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. As far as abstentions, I'm going to rely on you guys to abstain if you're going to. I'm going to ask it every
I'll
time.
move the total for assessing administration, 41,503, $52,272.
Second.
Who's going to flip
So
a coin
which
over
one
there?
are
Who gets the
we
draw?
taking out those two? Which one do you take, Linda?
I got Dan.
Any discussion on assessing
That was close.
administration?
Just one quick one. Is the Avatar software contract an annual contract?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Were they the ones responsible for the snafu?
I don't know. Oh, no.
No.
No, they were not responsible for that. That was the vendor,
Yeah.
the assessing vendor.
Okay, seeing no further questions, all those in favor of $52,272 for assessing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I'll move the bottom line of, the total for 41504 tax collector / town clerk of $93,087.
Second. We have a motion and a second, Ms. Tom. Any discussion on tax collector town clerk lines?
So Savannah, oh, sorry.
How?
Is Savannah's not going to have health care or not taking it?
I can't well,
It appears to me that
Here's
someone in that department has taken a
Oh.
buyout,
Sorry. Yeah, got it. Okay.
but I don't know who that someone might be.
Yeah.
Tom?
And this is an example of postage on line 630, is that right? 625 being aggregated elsewhere.
Right,
Yes.
this is going into the main line under executive office. Other discussion or questions on tax collector, town clerk? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of $93,087 say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
I'll move the bottom line for the treasurer, that's account 41505, in the amount of $7,263.
Second.
okay, motion and second. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Budget administration. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move budget administration,
This is us,
the
guys.
total of 51509, of $911. I hope that pays for the donuts.
No, that comes out of the selectmen's expense account, honey. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a question.
Your question.
And that is, since we have a number of new members, as well as forgetful old members like me, is the training budget adequate, do you think, Madam Chair?
I can tell you that this fall it was $90 per. We have enough in there for 4 members to go. In past years, we've barely spent, usually it's myself, Betsy, if anybody else wanted to go. The notice goes out to everybody.
Good lunch.
It is a very good lunch. And there's a lot of good information that comes back. And I will say it's extremely helpful, as Tom so eloquently put it, for both new members as well as us old folks who have a tendency to forget details. So, just out of curiosity, because we've only got a couple minutes anyway, before lunch, anybody interested in going next fall? I realize you don't have dates or anything else. I'm just curious about, gee, yeah, that might be a good thing. I'd kind of be interested in that, depending on the time and the place and what's going on in my life.
What, we tried to get them to come and do it here.
Right, and they're no longer doing that. Because we tried that. Yeah, we tried that for this past fall, and they're no longer doing that.
In answer to your question, yes.
You would be interested?
I would be.
So I got 1, 2,
I would do it as a repeat.
3, 4, 5.
There's just a
Okay,
lot
so we're
of-
looking at potentially 5. Do we want to increase that by $100? And I say 100 rather than just 80, because who
How
knows,
many-
it might go up a little bit more.
Theoretically, during election time, how many new members could you have?
This year, we're going to have 6 or 7.
I mean,
Well,
hypothetically,
those-
you could put a
those-
number to that, and then you might have a couple of existing members that want to go.
Right.
You should probably,
Well-
probably at least budget enough so if all the new members want to go, they
Okay,
can.
so each year, we're electing 4.
Okay.
However, we're continuing, it seems, to add village districts, and I do believe it would be very helpful for you gentlemen, since you're all guys, to go if you have the opportunity and what have you. I don't think we would be out of line to increase that by $100, which would allow for 5 as opposed to 4. And again, I'm just thinking the extra $20 in case there's an increase from $90 per to.
Ginger, do they still provide the manuals without
Yes.
going to that?
It's part of, without going to that? No, you have to pay for them separately.
Is that-
When you, that's part of the $90 per, my
That's
understanding.
something that we could also consider doing, is have additional manuals available.
They're not printing that every year, it's every other.
Still, I mean, it's a case of where, I look around the room, and there's probably maybe half a dozen of us that have manuals.
So you're referring to,
Last year's, this year's.
Basically, the overview.
right,
The red one.
so you're referring to this?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a nice book.
It's a very nice book. It's very informative. And I carry it in my bag at all times.
Well, I'd like to make a motion then that we add $100 to line.
Well, that is
820.
a suggestion of mine, but nobody has made a formal motion.
I think that's what he's doing.
Oh, you're doing, okay.
Linda.
2 points. On Bob's, I did contact NHMA, and they are perfectly fine with us copying their material as long as it's going to members.
Okay,
So we can print extra copies on the copier if people want them when the new one comes out,
okay.
as long as somebody goes to it and brings one back.
Is there an electronic version that you could just like,
No, they'd never let that out.
Yeah.
Too many people could get that, and again, not being members.
The other thing is as far as that group training, they do have it, but we were asking for the fall. They don't do it from like August till February, but they do it in the other part of the year.
Spring we could do it.
So
We do it
it's just
right
a
now.
matter of if they have somebody available and scheduling it. That is a
Could do one after
potential.
election.
But I think the cost is up there. We may want to do it with another town even. I don't recall the exact amount, and that could change in 2019, but I could certainly look into it. If it's $400 for them to come for everybody, then it would make more sense to do that and have them have the
Right.
training right here.
Right.
if you waited 18
But we
months,
would
you
get
could
the
do it
good
at the
lunch.
same time.
Maybe go for it.
There you go.
All right, so,
We have a motion.
we have a
I'll make the
motion.
motion. I don't
Right,
know.
we have a motion.
Second.
And that was to amend?
100 to line 550.
Yeah, it was a motion to amend.
What is it? 820.
To 450?
I thought it was by 100.
Well,
$100.
my suggestion was adding $100. Joe, I don't recall
I
what,
just said, yeah.
the $100?
I would do it five,
Nice.
make it 500 even.
Easily dealt with.
Change, your suggestion, changing the 360 to
It was 90
500
this
even?
year.
$140, is that to get to 500?
Yeah.
But if
So,
the next increment is $80 or $90, the 100 covers it.
It's at
Just
90
making it
this year.
500
I
doesn't-
went this year, it was 90.
right.
90?
When we went,
Well,
it was
still.
90.
Still, it covers it. I'm just saying, go 500, you still haven't, unless a half person wants to go or something.
Well, if you have them come here.
Half the
Whatever.
time.
Or if they come here.
Whatever.
Yeah, I'm thinking it may have been like 500.
I thought it was pretty high when we were first talking
Right.
about it, and I didn't get that part that they would come in the spring, that just fall season was, 'cause my understanding
Yeah,
was they
well, we
weren't
had a
doing it
window of
anymore.
time, we wanted them
Right,
between, and they
right.
couldn't do
They
it.
couldn't
then.
accommodate it.
And then we were gonna wait and see how many were interested after the election.
Right, right,
And then
right.
it never happened.
Okay.
Well, we don't know that number. Is it good to go with this one, or?
All right, so we're at 12 o'clock. I'm just going to ask, generally speaking, we've got a motion right now to amend this to 450, which,
460.
460. I'm sorry, 460.
I can get an exact number for the group thing online over lunch if you wanna wait.
Let's just, yeah, if Who seconded the motion?
I did.
If you would rescind your second, Joe, rescind your motion, and we'll address it after lunch. How's
I
that?
rescind my second for,
Thank you, Michael.
for lunch. In exchange for lunch.
In exchange for lunch. Okay, so we are recessing for lunch. Everybody be back at 1 o'clock.